Hi, I'm Angified. I started Angified Presents.
We share the love of music.
It has been medicine and therapy. Nothing else worked.
It has saved many of us. With mental health, we need to open our eyes.
Hurt people hurt people.
We ask that you listen, comprehend, and relate with your ears.
Form that heart of unity and one.
We share on this stage.
Statistics, feelings.
And ourselves.
We stand with the belief to be you, to be heard, and to be original.
We all may be different, with opinions and beliefs.
At the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters.
We are family.
We ask that you join us in a magical journey with artists from around the world. Open your minds, let in the love,
and listen with your hearts.
We all want a better tomorrow. Be one.
Communicate and look out for one another. And then, and only then, will you find the world.
We will find peace in all the world.
You'll find the world. And you will find in this trying world heroes among us, in every boy and girl. Many have been broken, red hearts turn black. Love will melt the ice and turn it back, and you will find the world. You will find the world. You will find the world. And when you find a place called home, where everyone is free to roam, a whole new world, a better place for our children's futures at stake. And you'll find, with music in your soul, laughter in your hearts, together we can grow a better place, with love in us all. And you will find, together we can save it all. And you will find, a place called home, where everyone is free to roam, a better place, a whole new world,
talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much rap. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking We're talking IT. We're talking IT. Every Thursday night on Angified.
Every Thursday night on Angified.
That's right. Right here.
Yeah.
That's right.
And sometimes on a PC and sometimes on a Mac and even mobile devices. But tonight, we're going virtual.
No screen?
Ah, well, goggles.
Yeah. But it doesn't take up a lot of space in the room. That's the important thing.
It depends on how far you go. We've got some interesting things to look at tonight.
Now, are we going to actually get into the holodeck or not quite yet?
It's getting there. There are some very cool. The last time I looked at this technology was about 4 years ago, and the amount of change in such a small amount of time blows my mind, especially considering this first video, which actually will bring this up while we're looking at what we're going to look at tonight, and considering that this started back in 1995, and to see the progress we have made. Here we go. The evolution of VR headsets. Let's get that in here. And I included this because it just takes me back. Totally takes me back. I don't remember this Virtual Boy. I guess Nintendo was trying to get into VR while they were still playing around with the Game Boy, and I guess I would have tried one of these if I'd come across one.
Sure.
I can just imagine what it would have costed, though.
I'm thinking about the screens and the size of the screens, and thinking about how that's got to look.
Well,
use of the technology.
The cool thing with this video is he unboxes each of these and then does show what you do see.
Nice.
See, and they were going for that kind of 3D view.
I mean, yeah. For the time, sure.
I mean, it's not Lawnmower Man, but
right.
Now look at the year. We go from 95 to 2015 with no progress in VR.
Mm-hmm.
And surprisingly, Samsung, the one that kind of kicked it back in.
And that was the thing, is I think there was not the kind of massive uptake that they thought there would be at the beginning. And I think they were thinking that would have fueled the whole development, and, it would be the death of TV sets and everything else, whereas it wasn't quite what they thought it would be. But this was probably the resurgence or the comeback.
Yeah, and their approaches to controllers, I mean, that's one of the things that has evolved.
Mm-hmm. And learning that they need to have a strap for the wrist so that you don't throw it across the house.
Yeah, and these designs kind of remind me of, the boxes that they have where you can put your phone in, and
sure.
It's like cheap VR.
Mm-hmm. That is a lot of progress. Yeah, over 20 years.
And you see the difference in the games now. Like the pinball one, I definitely would play.
Oh yeah, pinball's always fun.
So now we get into the console, like VRs. 2016, everything started really kicking in. And I think people took it more serious with like a Sony, behind it than Samsung. Looks like a little PlayStation.
Micro. Ooh, he was hiding.
And looking at the size of the headsets as we go through these evolutions, I mean, they get bigger, then they get smaller, then they get bigger again. I mean, that actually looks kind of comfortable.
Probably. That does look more comfortable with the foam, yeah.
Yeah, and the games are starting to look better. Drunken bar fight. I played that one.
Yeah, the Star Wars one for sure. That's the kind of thing that would sell me on something like that.
Oh yeah. That's how you kind of want to develop games that are going to have an audience automatically.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the HTC is another one that surprisingly they're back in the game again.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to do that like phone VR kind of conversion for a couple of years, and it really didn't work well. Look at those controllers. And the little thing he had there for like putting over your eyes for people who wear glasses. Sure. That's a big deal. I really don't like those controllers though. I like the look of the headset, but and virtual boxing definitely has some appeal.
Sure.
As long as you don't go punching like walls or something by accident, punching your wife.
Yep. It was starting to remind me of one of the maybe it was Rainbow Six or one of the games like that. They had like a stealth headset that was like basically you're wearing a wetsuit and it had a VR headset that reminded me of that for some reason.
Oh, Ange is pimping the Samsung products. They do have some good products.
Nice.
I don't know if I'd buy their VR, but I do like their phones. The first Oculuses. You remember when these first came out? Oculus made a lot of noise when they started making these.
Yeah.
And the games improved.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yes. Lightsabers.
Sold. Nice.
See, and the shooting games really started picking up at that point, which is the most logical kind of game for this platform.
It does, yeah. And the next iteration, Oculus.
A little bit smaller.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's no surprise that Meta bought Oculus, considering Mark Zuckerberg really wants to bring VR into Facebook and make it an immersive experience.
Mm-hmm.
Oculus was the best purchase that they could make. Again, those controllers, iffy. Plus, battery, having to recharge them. At least they started going wireless, tethered wires to your headset with your controllers is no fun.
Nice. And zombie games. There you go. Another good choice.
Now, racing games. We're gonna be looking at some of that.
Those reminding me of Crazy Taxi right there. That would be a good one for that. The Quest.
Yeah. You see, between like 2017 and 2019, Oculus was just dominating.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't understand the purpose for the ring though on the top of the controllers.
I think it's just so it can keep an eye on which way you're doing things. I mean, 6 degrees of freedom is what I was just talking about, so it has to be able to track everything your hands and head are doing without external sensors.
Yeah, I really want to see him get to gloves. You know, like get me gloves and let me do hand gestures. If I do this, I want to be able to shoot.
I'd almost rather than gloves, I'd almost rather have like 4 cameras to place out in front of me somewhere that keep track of my hands as if I was wearing gloves rather than.
Yeah, that's another. I think if they use motion tracking cameras along with the headsets, you're really going to see more innovation.
Yeah. And it has to be multiple points so you can get good tracking. So that's where I'm thinking like 4. If you had 4 sitting out there, that would cover the field pretty well.
Yeah. The one who got me down this rabbit hole, Cole Seth, gave me a homework assignment last week and then started showing me his new VR because he's got the new Meta 3.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, I'll cover this.
Yep.
See, and those eye lenses, you'll see with some of the ones we're going to look at tonight, the eye lenses have come a long way.
Sure.
Oh, this is the one Kira has?
Nice.
Yeah, and the Quest 2 was super popular. These that they're showing right now, the last couple of years, they've really taken off. A lot of people were saying the Pico is going to kill the Oculus, but then Meta took over, and the Meta 3 kind of puts the Pico back on defensive mode.
Mm-hmm.
But cost-wise, that's part of the reason why the Pico was gaining so much traction. They brought the price down. I kind of like the controllers a little more.
Almost looks more like AR, where you can see through it somewhat.
Yeah, and the ones with the cameras, the front-facing cameras, that's the key to getting the augmented reality, which is really cool. Cole showed me like augmented games and actual VR games. Augmented really does change the experience.
For sure. And it keeps you somewhat in the room, which is good.
It helps you avoid running into a wall.
Yeah. Meta Quest Pro.
Yeah, now this is right before they came out with the 3 and more of a transitional product. Wow.
The packaging came a long way since the big mass of wires in the box from 10 years earlier.
Yeah, somebody's playing Tetris to put all that shit in there. I do like the base station, the charging station on this one.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And it does look cool, lightweight, compared to some of the other ones coming out at this time that looked really bulky. That doesn't look bulky.
Right.
Oh, this is one of the games that I want to try. The one with the bullet time.
Nice. That would be a good one too. Flying around, I'm sure. Nice.
Now we're getting to our current offerings. I mean, Sony's putting a lot of their resources into this world. I don't know if they're going to win against Meta, but it's competitive. It's going to break down to the games because with the PlayStation system, the games are proprietary, they're exclusive. If they can make games that people really want to play that they can't get anywhere else, that's always been how Sony does it.
Yeah.
And the games look great.
There you go. Talking about getting into driving for sure.
Yeah, I want a steering wheel.
Well, the hands, I mean, basically, what's the difference?
Yeah, if you've got the right controller, I can see, but I still want a steering wheel. I want to feel a steering wheel shaking. And
they could probably even do that for you.
Oh, I've looked, and like I said, what we're going to be looking at tonight, there's one, it costs 12 grand, but you're going to feel like you're in a car.
That I believe.
I mean, it cost as much as a car, but
Well, I remember the first like hyper realistic helicopter simulator I got into, like a video game that was all about that, and it was very much like a vehicle.
Yeah. This is the one Cole has.
Nice.
And it's impressive. I mean, I've gotten to see it in action. And it does have 3 cameras. That's how it does the augmented. Those 3 little black circles in the front are cameras.
Sure.
I can see it. And there's a couple of flavors of the 3. They're trying to hit some different price points, so depending on what you want to spend there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they left off at the 3. I mean, there's a few new ones that are coming down the pipe, but that's right now that is the one that is definitely getting a lot of new customers. That's to the Talkin Shhh I.T cave.
Indeed. What's on the menu for today besides virtual stuff?
Well, we just looked at that, which was a nice look back at the history of VR. I mean, 95, the idea was there. Lawnmower Man got us thinking about, the possibility of VR, but the technology, NVIDIA had to come along, powerful PCs, the internet had to get faster.
It all came down to enabling technologies, like always, But being able to shrink the screen down and have it near your eyes without blowing your brains out with radiation is another problem.
Without puking, which was a big problem.
I mean, I remember even just having games that felt immersive on even a tiny screen, like the iPod Nano had that little 2-inch screen. I remember playing a game on a bus, and I'm just playing this game that was use a motion controller. So you're trying to, it's like Spore, I think was the game. So you're trying to swim around or whatever, and it's like lean it this way, lean it that way. But I'm trying to lean all these different directions while the bus is moving, and it was like, whoa! After a little while, I was like, I got to stop for a little bit and recheck on this in a little while.
Well, the motion sickness is real.
Indeed.
So, the first one we're going to look at is coming from Valid Consumer, and it's the current hot headsets. Like right now, these are the best considerations. There's other ones out there, and I am going to include one more on top of these 5 that has an impressive approach, but they're going to show us the 5 that you really should only consider these. These are the the ones developing and most likely to be around. This is a technology that changes quick, so you might be obsolete in a year.
Yeah, and the development side is important. Knowing which one has, the development community behind it is important.
Yeah, well, and there's most of them are pretty open-ended. They'll play on PCs, they'll play through consoles. Steam VR is very popular.
Sure.
But then you do have a couple of like proprietary ones like the Sony. And this one, the Pimax Crystal Light, I had to include this one. There was almost two videos I was going to bring from this channel. Optium has one of the coolest. This guy's a racing enthusiast. In real life, he likes his cars, and he wanted to build the experience into VR.
Nice.
What you see there was his initial build with screens. I would kill for this setup, except it's about $14,000. That rack he's sitting in is pretty much like a car, as sturdy as it gets.
Sure.
The steering wheel, the whole kit costs about 12,000 minus the screens. So he spent a couple of grand for the screens as well.
Sure. But like you said, he likes his racing, and that's the way to get into it.
Yeah, and what he's going to show us is what he did after building this, because some of the VR companies started throwing him hardware, saying, "Hey, can you test us out?" And he looked at a couple of different headsets, and this Pimax Crystal Light, he basically said, "I shouldn't have built this giant screen because this headset actually did it for a lot less."
Yeah, exactly.
And then I had to talk about the controllers. Me and Cole had a long rabbit hole talk about the different controllers that have come out, like how he feels about the ones he's using now with the Meta. And Joe Salt covers every controller that has ever been made in a nice quick video, goes through the pluses and the minuses as they've tried to come up with a way to control yourself and your body, with your hands.
Yeah. Marionette style.
Which to me is clunky. I don't want to use my hands to control running around and things like that.
To some extent, you kind of need to until you get to the point where you can do the 360 treadmills. So that's where we're getting.
And that's why we included this, because this is where I want to see it go. Seeing some of these in action was incredible. Watching it makes me like, I want one. I will get into VR gaming with this kind of setup. Nice. The first one is the top 5 omnidirectional treadmills. They're not all treadmills in this particular video. They actually start with some of the more basic technologies that they're trying out, but it gets to the treadmills because they want to do like Ready Player One style.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking like where we are on the spectrum of 1 to Ready Player One, and we're pretty much there.
Yeah. Well, after you see this, you'll realize we pretty much are. and it's because of products like this one. The next one after that is the best choice right now. If you do decide to go with one of these treadmills, this new catwalk, because they've been making noise for the last couple of years. They did a Kickstarter to initially get going. There's been like 3 generations of this that went from $2,000 down to $1,200. This one's down to $899. So we're hitting that price point, that sweet spot for the hardcore gamers, and the guys and girls who take VR serious are going to be getting this.
Nice.
And then I was like, if I'm going to be playing these shooter games, I don't want to be sitting there with this little dinky controller. And when you see the three that Marty recommends here, especially the third one, considering that the best one, the one that I would want, is also the cheapest option, it's cool to see that this technology has gotten to the point where a couple $100 and now your controller feels like you're actually using the equipment you're using in the games.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see him actually like change clips and weapons, and it's so natural that it's like that's how I want to play.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Controllers have definitely, become very specialized. I remember the initial, remember Duck Hunt with the gun hooked up to the Nintendo, and where we went from there. And what was it, Commando, the one that had in the video game arcade machine where it had like the Uzi with the rocket launcher on the side.
Oh, don't forget Terminator. Terminator 2 was one of the best in the arcades.
Yes.
So once we look at all these cool controllers, I figured the final frontier is what games are going to complement these controllers going into 2025. And these are games that Mateo, these are games that are about to come out. They've been announced, they've been released, there's been some teasers. This is what you're going to get to look at when you get these cool controllers.
All right.
So we're probably going to spend some money after tonight.
Yeah. but that's okay.
But at least we'll know where to spend the money.
And I mean, again, it's been a while since I've looked into this as well, so I'm definitely excited to see what it's come up to at this point.
Yeah. I mean, 2021, I think, was the last time I looked serious. And as we saw, that was right before Oculus was, getting taken over by Meta, and everything really changed.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to see just how much it's changed in 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And if we are going to spend money, at Valid Consumer is going to help us to make sure we don't spend any more than we need to get what we want.
Excellent.
So they're going to show us, in their opinion, the only 5 you should consider. I almost put a second one up because I did have another one that had 5 where most of them were the same. There was a few slight differences, and I went with this one because the ones that they did include that the other one didn't are relevant, especially like the Vive, the one you see in the bottom there. So I wanted to include this one over the other one because I didn't want to ignore the 2 that they mentioned here that the other one didn't. So let's see, which one would we buy in 2025?
Nice.
The best VR headsets are a must if you're trying to explore virtual worlds, and increasingly, you can even use them to explore the real world thanks to mixed reality pass-through. This feature uses cameras to pull in a video feed of your surroundings to your headset display and overlays your environment with augmented reality holographs. To help you navigate this often complicated-seeming market, we've rounded up the best VR headsets you can buy at the moment. As always, links to all products mentioned in the video are in the description below. Now, let's get started. Number 5. Pico 4. Pico 4 is a VR headset you may not have heard of or taken notice of before. It's hard to find in the US, for example, but this Chinese brand is quietly disrupting the VR headset market and catching up with the Quest 3. The tech is good, if not amazing. For example, it uses pancake lenses rather than LCD or OLED that deliver a good VR experience, but lacks the field of vision of Quest 3 and PSVR 2, yet still manages 2160 pixel resolution per eye. Pico 4 is essentially a step above Quest 2. less chromatic aberration and ghosting issues in all areas, but slightly behind Quest 3. Being a PC VR headset, it can either be used wirelessly like Quest 3 for lower-spec games and fitness apps, or link it up and play high-spec PC VR games like Half-Life Alyx, which we found laggy. But with graphically intensive games, Pico 4's 6 DOF tracking is great and performs well. The real advantage of Pico 4 is it delivers a solid VR experience, wireless and wired, for around $649. A bundle deal with games and apps is only $778, and there are regular deals on both. Number 4. HTC Vive Pro 2. The HTC Vive Pro 2 stands out as a top-tier mainstream VR headset, primarily due to its impressive display enhancements. Boasting a remarkable 2448 by 2448 pixels resolution per eye, it delivers stunning visuals that are further enriched by its 120Hz refresh rate and 120-degree field of view. This combination provides one of the most immersive viewing experiences available. In comparison to competitors like the Quest 2, which offers a 3664 by 1920 resolution, the Vive Pro 2 excels, especially in games with high-resolution textures and models. The high resolution also effectively eliminates the screen door effect, suggesting a significant advancement in VR hardware technology. However, to fully exploit the Vive Pro 2's capabilities, a powerful PC setup is required. HTC recommends an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 20 series or Radeon RX 5000 series GPU for optimal performance. In our testing with a high-end PC equipped with a GeForce RTX 3080 and an AMD Ryzen 9 5900X, the headset ran flawlessly across various games, highlighting its demanding hardware specifications. The headset experience remains tethered, with a generous but sometimes intrusive cable. For those seeking a wireless option, the headset is compatible with HTC's wireless adapter, although this accessory reduces the refresh rate to 90 Hz and adds a significant cost. The headset's design prioritizes comfort with ample foam padding, though it can get warm during extended use. Despite its weight, it's well balanced and doesn't feel overly heavy. Setting up the Vive Pro 2 involves a process facilitated by HTC's Setup app and Steam VR, which guides users through configuration and troubleshooting. HTC continues to use satellite technology for precise controller tracking, requiring a setup with multiple power sockets. The comprehensive starter kit includes the headset, 2 first-generation controllers, and 2 base station 2.0 satellites, necessitating a thoughtful installation to avoid disturbances. While the headset is available separately for those upgrading from an earlier model, its cost, particularly for the full starter kit, is substantial. Despite its high price and the complexity of the setup, the Vive Pro 2 presents a compelling option for VR enthusiasts seeking the pinnacle of display quality in a VR headset. Number 3. Meta Quest 2. The Meta Quest 2 is a masterclass in incremental improvements over its predecessor, the Oculus Quest. The Quest 2 sports a slicker design, better overall resolution, a 120Hz refresh rate in some games and apps, and faster overall performance than the original Oculus Quest. It also just feels like a well-made headset. There's a large market for Meta Quest 2 accessories too, from Logitech speakers that can be attached to the Quest 2's strap to provide a premium sound experience without taking you fully out of the real world, to charging docks and more. Plus, the Quest 2 does all this without any cables, which is one of the reasons why it still holds our top spot for the best VR headset. But you can still connect it to a PC via the Meta Quest Link cable to play the best PC VR games. Starting at $299, it's also the most affordable headset out there, making its quality and versatility all the more impressive. That's why it remains our top pick for the best way to get started with the world of virtual reality if you don't want to spend up for the Quest 3. Number 2. PSVR 2. The PlayStation VR 2 is one of the market's most advanced and thoughtfully designed headsets, and the only one built exclusively for a major console gaming platform. It projects excellent visuals thanks to its high-resolution screen and advanced eye-tracking capabilities. We also appreciated streamlined setup, above-average comfort, and convenient adjustability for daily use. This is hands down the best VR headset we've ever tested for glasses compatibility. If you're planning to bring your eyeglasses into VR, you won't beat the comfort level of the PSVR 2 due to its forehand-supported headband that keeps the visor off your face, allowing tons of room inside for glasses. Face strap-based visors cannot compete. Although the PSVR 2 hardware is excellent, it suffers from a closed software ecosystem. PC-based VR kits can access far more VR content than what's currently available in the PlayStation VR library, and to make matters worse, the PSVR 2 isn't backward compatible with the original PSVR headset's titles. But despite its more limited game library, those who already own a PS5 or anyone who wants to avoid the hassle of keeping up with an advanced gaming PC should strongly consider the PSVR 2. Even if you have to pick up a new PS5 to work with the PSVR 2, the total cost would be less than many PC VR headsets before you even factor in an expensive performance PC. The PSVR 2 is one of the most advanced headsets out there and will give you access to PS5 exclusives, including well-optimized versions of some of the biggest AAA VR titles. However, if your priority is to experience the most VR content in a single headset, you should check out the cross-platform capable MetaQuest 2. While it lacks the advanced performance of the PSVR 2, it compensates with the ability to function as a standalone VR platform and can tether to a VR-ready PC for access to top-tier VR games. Number 1. Meta Quest 3. The long-awaited follow-up to the Quest 2 is an upgrade in every respect. It's more comfortable to wear, it has higher quality screens, and it has full-color mixed reality cameras, allowing you to see the real world alongside virtual elements. While it's more expensive at $500, it's also a far more capable headset than the Quest 2, with hardware and optics that will keep you happily immersed in VR for years. The Quest 3 is powered by Qualcomm's Snapdragon XR2 Gen 2 chip, which Meta says has doubled the graphics power of the Quest 2. That additional power is noticeable in games like Red Matter 2, which feature updated textures that deliver an experience closer to PC VR. The Quest 3's new displays run at 2064 by 2208 pixels per eye, offering an even better experience than the PlayStation VR 2. Its mixed reality cameras also let you easily see the real world, in case you need to quickly answer a text or Slack message. And they enable games that can be built around your room. What makes the Quest 3 interesting is that it offers more than just solid VR. It also gives you a glimpse at what a mixed reality future could be. While it's not as sharp or capable as Apple's Vision Pro, that's understandable. And just like the previous Quest headsets, you can also plug it into a gaming PC for higher quality VR experiences. And there you have it, folks, our comprehensive roundup of the top VR headsets on the market right now. From the budget-friendly and versatile MetaQuest 2 to the advanced, immersive experience of the MetaQuest 3, there's something for every virtual reality enthusiast. Whether you're a hardcore gamer looking for the ultimate PC VR setup with the HTC Vive Pro 2, or seeking a more accessible entry into the VR world with the innovative Pico 4, these headsets are sure to transport you to new dimensions. Remember, the world of VR is constantly evolving, and each of these headsets brings its unique strengths to the table. Consider what fits your needs, budget, and the type of experiences you're eager to dive into. Will it be the console-exclusive prowess of the PSVR 2 or the cutting-edge tech of the Quest 3? The choice is yours. Don't forget, for more detailed information and the best deals on these headsets, check out the links in the description below. Your gateway to virtual worlds awaits. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more tech reviews and updates. We love hearing from you, so drop a comment below on which VR headset caught your eye, or share your own VR experiences. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and immerse yourself in the endless possibilities of virtual reality. This is David, signing off. Dive into your virtual adventure today.
Oh, yes, David. I do find that information useful.
I do indeed.
Yes, at Valid Consumer. I actually went here when I was shopping for the headphones because they do great comparisons. You know, looking at this one, I could see why they're still pushing the Quest 2 considering $299 as far as entry level VR,
Yeah.
if you really have to go that budget, that's a good starting point. But I would want to spend that extra 200 and shoot for that three, because the three is the future.
Yeah. Now, some people also don't even know if they would be motion sickness sensitive with these things. So, they might want to jump in with one of the, the more budget ones so that they could test the waters, so to speak, before they jump into, the high end ones.
Yeah, this is one of those products that if you can go into a store and actually try them out, especially if you don't know if you're going to have motion sickness, which a lot of people do. So nobody should feel like, ooh, I get sick on VR. I feel like I'm ashamed. Most people actually do. So we're going to look at some ways to help alleviate that. But I think starting with the headsets themselves is the first key.
Yeah.
The higher resolution, the pancake lenses, these are the things you're going to hear a lot more.
Eye tracking as well, another one. I mean, there's a number of different things that can help with all of that. I think the one like you were mentioning, the one that has the cameras on the front, so that it has the mixed reality, or you can have the room blended in, so to speak. That should help a lot with the motion sickness, because then you are still able to base yourself in the reality of your room, even if you're moving all around like this. You can still see the actual world around you.
Yeah, you get some sense of your environment.
Yeah, and that's again if you can even dial in how much of the outside you can get. That would be ideal in my opinion, because then for me, I would want to see how much of my room I'm about to hit something or whatever. I want to know where I am in the space. But I'm also usually
and people play these in very tight spaces and manage to play the games.
For sure.
Now, for the 5 that they showed here, I think the biggest consideration is actually between the Sony and the MetaQuest. The Sony does have that advantage for eyeglass wearers, which is a lot of, and I'm kind of curious how, if you're wearing glasses inside you know, how your eyes are adjusting with the additional lens of the glasses. I'm curious how that works with those who have different vision, impairments.
Yeah, because the actual focal distance, I mean, the thing is right there. So it should be right there. But are you looking like you're trying to look 30 feet into the distance? That's the question, is because technically you are. Like when you've got the headset on, you're looking off into the distance. And so your eyes are looking off into the distance rather than being focused on something that's right in front of them. So that does take some getting used to.
Yeah, a lot of the people who would complain and say they get headaches, especially with the phone ones, because those are the ones that really would cause. I tried those and they gave me headaches. It's because the eye realizes that it's looking at something this close, and even though it looks like you're looking off into the distance, your eye still realizes it's right next to what it's looking at, and it's like staring at a TV too close.
Exactly. And that was the thing that I always had an issue with. The early iterations of this type of thing looked like they would have that sort of issue to me, when I was looking at them. But seeing what it looks like with these new headsets, I mean, I'd like to actually go try some of these out and see, because if it's anywhere near as good as it seems to look, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Well, I think the top 2 choices between the PlayStation's option and the MetaQuest 3's options, the additional distance and how they're dealing with these larger lenses, they are the future. The other ones are interesting. The Pico, again, an interesting one, but if it's not massively available in your country, I can see why, like, a lot of Americans wouldn't want to go with something that's not getting saturation in your market.
Yeah.
And the HTC, good to see them back in the game with a cost-effective, connects to a PC, but again, wired, having to be wired like that. And if you do go wireless, adding latency and lower resolution because of that. These are the kinds of things that are going to make it a tough sell.
Yeah. Now the latency would be one thing. The lower resolution or the lower refresh rate, going from 120 down to 90.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would even notice that, to be honest. I tend to not really going above 60, or when you get up to 85 or beyond, it just doesn't seem to make that much difference beyond that. Like some people are like, oh, it's 200 and 200 whatever refresh rate, and I'm like, you can tell. I mean, you see
that. Again, if it's one of those situations where you start to experience headaches,
sure.
Whether you can tell, if you do start experiencing headaches, then the refresh rate could be part of the culprit.
Yeah, I guess we'd have to see.
Yeah,
but
literally.
Each person would have to test it for themselves and see. Because again, like maybe some people's eyes are more easily fooled into seeing off into the distance, instead of seeing the actual glass right in front of you.
Yeah,
I would believe that for sure.
And I'm curious of those with like a weak eye, because a lot of this does depend on both your eyes kind of getting the equal experience. And if you do have a weak eye, this might be a tough technology to work with.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. Except that with the glasses, if you have the glasses in there, ideally that would already be correcting. But as you say, if your brain is depending more heavily on one, it might not even notice the depth as much or as correctly with the lenses.
Yeah. So very useful information at Valid Consumer. If you're out there shopping around for these kinds of products, this is like the what was that magazine back in the 80s, the Computer Shopper, but there was also Consumer Reports. Yeah, this is the YouTube version. Very useful channel. Yeah, and they helped me to figure out my headphones.
Nice.
So there's one more headset that I want to include here. It's not as compact as the others, but in this kind of situation with Aptium here, he's a racing enthusiast. He's a car guy at first, but he's also a tech guy as a career, and he was determined to do what I've always wanted to do, which is build the driving simulator or flight simulator, because it actually is great for either, depending on your controller. And this guy takes it to the level that I want to take it, where I want to feel like I'm in the car. And I mean, just looking, this was his original setup with the curved monitors. That 360 field of vision was a necessity for him. And after he built this, he got a lot of attention, and some of the VR companies started contacting him and like, hey, you want to test out ours with this kind of setup? And he started getting thrown some great stuff to play with. This Pimax Crystal Light. He kind of regrets that he built this first before getting to play with the Pimax, because he gets the same experience that he's getting here out of this headset. It's big, but it's impressive.
Nice.
And I also went and found out the cage he's in, the steering wheel, all the gear he uses. I went through his gear list and found out who makes these kinds of. It's not cheap. Even the cheap stuff in this case goes into the thousands just for the steering wheels and the small cages. So if you do plan on simulating driving to this level, be prepared to pay for it.
Yeah. Now you'd mentioned the using it for flying as well, and I think it was Ace Combat at one point on one of the PlayStations. It might have been PlayStation 2 or whatever. But Ace Combat had one with the the flight stick and the throttle and all that, like controllers specifically built for flying. And I got those at one point, and they're around here somewhere.
Yeah. The company who made his steering wheel has a flight simulator category just for the flight sims. They've got every kind of controller. They've got the the like, cross, almost like a steering wheel, but it's more like a spaceship. And they've got the like force feedback sticks and helicopter sim.
Helicopter pedals, yeah.
Yeah, and throw some dials on it just to make them. They don't have to do anything, just make them look cool.
Programmable dials.
Yep. So this one's coming from at Optium Tech over on YouTube. Lots of cool tech stuff he's playing around with on this channel. If you're like me, you like the like crazy tech that's out there, and you want to see like it being tested. Very cool.
All right. Sick setup.
Let's see this alternate headset. VR is getting insane.
So a couple of months back, I tried VR on my racing sim, and it completely blew me away. So much so that I just spent half the time looking around the cabin in disbelief. Everything just looked so good. It also made me get rid of my triple ultra-wide monitor setup, because once I had experienced that realism and depth perception in VR, there was no going back. But this rabbit hole goes even deeper. This is the latest VR headset from Pimax. It's called the Crystal Light. Basically, they reached out and said, hey, you want to take this thing for a spin? I had one look at the specs and I said, yes, I need to test this thing out immediately. Most of my time spent on my new racing sim, though, has been actually with this thing here, the Big Screen Beyond. And for those who haven't seen my initial video with it, yeah, this is it. This is the entire VR headset right here. Still completely blows my mind. 127 grams, micro OLED displays, 2560 by 2560 resolution per eye, magnetic 3D printed face cushion. I mean, come on, like what else could you possibly want? Well, actually, a couple of things. First of all, the field of view on this headset is quite narrow at just 102 degrees. It's fine, I mean, you do get used to it, but it's just not really optimized for a simulator. And then secondly, I'm guessing because the headset is just so freakishly small, the lenses are also very, very small, which means that the optical sweet spot, the amount of vision which is in focus and extremely clear, is very small. It's basically just the center. And that is why I'm so interested in this. FOV 130, and the lenses are way, way bigger. Pimax outright stating the much larger optical sweet spot. All of that while actually having a higher resolution and refresh rate than my Big Screen Beyond. The specs on this thing are absolutely huge, but also so is the headset. I mean, dude, take a look at how massive this thing is. It just doesn't even seem real when you put it next to the Big Screen Beyond. It's just a mind-bending comparison. This thing is over 6 times the weight at over 800 grams. But also, for sim racing, I actually don't know how much this even matters. I mean, I'd be way less forgiving here if I was playing VR games, standing up, moving around, and you know, looking down and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm putting this thing on, I'm sitting down and occasionally, looking around, and that's pretty much it. I'm not happy about the extra weight, and I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all for sim racing, but if that extra bulk comes with extra performance, that is a compromise I'm willing to make. I was actually able to get the Pimax feeling pretty comfortable, but only because of this thicker face cushion, which is a small add-on. Without this, the Pimax was not a nice fit at all. But with it, yeah, it's actually pretty good. With this thicker face cushion as well, your eyes are offset a little bit further back away from the lenses, which for me made a world of difference to like how comfortable everything felt. I don't know, with the stock face cushion, I felt like my eyes were like a little bit too close and I was almost like cross-eyed, just didn't really feel natural. So if you're planning on getting this headset, definitely get the thicker 15mm cushion. But yeah, here we are in Assetto Corsa. I've got it fully loaded with all the mods. I've spent like so much time tweaking it, making it look like super, super nice. We've got these like amazing golden rays piercing through the trees. I can almost feel the warmth. And then you've got this like steamy fog just breezing over the track. It just looks and feels so amazing in VR. Of course, on a good OLED monitor, this is going to look really impressive as well, but it just has more of that 2D kind of digital look to it. The larger sweet spot for the optics, which is one of the main things that I was looking forward to here, having more of your vision in focus. that is a pretty obvious difference. I can glance pretty much anywhere around the cabin here, see all of that carbon fiber in detail, see all of that textured dash in detail, without even looking directly at it. I mean, these lenses are extremely good. Not as good as the Quest 3, those things are like made with magic or something, but these are honestly pretty damn close. And although this isn't an OLED display, I mean, like, just sitting here, you can really feel that glow from the sun, feel that brightness, but then also we've got like that depth of the cabin. You can feel that this is, you know, not being hit with direct light. We don't have any ray tracing in this game, of course, so it's only going to look so good, but this is, I mean, really surprisingly close to the OLED on the big screen beyond. The other thing that I'm really enjoying about the Pimax is just the specs. This thing can do almost 6K resolution at 120 Hz, and it looks and feels as insane as that sounds. The specs are so insane that I'm not even getting 120 Hz on my 4080 gaming rig. I think with Assetto Corsa loaded up as much as I have it, it's closer to like 100 to 110 FPS. As for that wider FOV though, which is the main upgrade that I was looking forward to here, I honestly could not tell any difference. To me, it felt the same as the big screen beyond, which is a little bit less than the Quest 3. That is pretty surprising. I'm guessing that with the thicker face cushion, the FOV is reduced quite a bit, but even with the stock one, it didn't really feel that different. The Crystal Light also has inside-out tracking, just like the Quest 3, without setting up any external base stations, which is pretty cool, except the tracking on the Pimax is not good at all. For some reason, it's very stuttery. It's almost like you're playing at half the frame rate. No idea why it's so bad, but yeah, I would avoid using it. Luckily, you can easily fix this by just getting a Lighthouse faceplate and then using that with a Steam VR base station, effectively making the same setup as the big screen beyond, and it feels just as perfectly fluid. The default speakers as well are not great. It's nice to have something built in, I guess, but for virtual reality where you really want immersion, they don't make any sense. Their DMAS speakers though, which are these ones here, are absolutely a massive upgrade. Feel free to use IEMs obviously if you have a really good pair, but it is nice not to worry about any extra wires or stuff to wear. Now in terms of image quality, there's actually a lot going on here, so let me just try and dissect it and break it down so it's a little bit easier to understand. In terms of resolution, basically the detail and crispiness of the image, the Pimax takes the cake here pretty easily. It has the highest resolution spec, although the big screen beyond is pretty close in its 75 Hz mode when it doesn't need to upscale. The contrast and punchiness of the image is also pretty close between these two, at least for sim racing and the stuff that I tested, both of them being a huge step up over the Quest 3. The Quest 3 though does have the best optics though. I'd say the Pimaxes are pretty good as well and one of the main upgrades over the big screen, but still not as good as the Quest. So yeah, moving forward, I think I'm going to stick with the Pimax Crystal for my racing sim. It is a noticeable spec bump over the big screen VR and the lenses are a little bit nicer as well. If I was doing any VR though, where I was like standing and moving around, I am not even going to try with this thing. With the whole strap, this thing actually weighs over a kilo, which is just absolutely nuts. It honestly feels like you're wearing a helmet. Personally, I didn't even find it, uncomfortable. With this thicker face cushion and this clamp at the back here, you can wind it up pretty tightly and get it feeling, really solid. But if you're doing any movement or anything like that, it's just not going to be a nice experience, I don't think personally. If I already owned a big screen beyond though, I would tell myself not to upgrade to the Crystal Light. There's a nice little spec bump here, but it's honestly not enough to justify spending another $1,000 or so, especially when there are nicer headsets just around the corner. For example, Pimax's own Crystal Super. It's over double the price of the Crystal Light, which I've been testing out today, but the specs for this thing don't even seem real. 3840 by 3840 resolution per eye, and you can choose between a QLED or a micro OLED screen, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, and you can actually swap them in and out of the headset. This looks like it'll come with an actually wide FOV too, which is what I'm mainly looking forward to. They're also working on a headset called the Reallity 12K, which has 6K resolution per eye. No idea when this one is coming out, but yeah, it's probably going to require an RTX 6090 at minimum. Big Screen are also cooking up some stuff in the background. I can't share anything yet, but yeah, safe to say VR is about to get seriously insane.
Oh, that one is a beast.
Are you kidding me? 6K per eye.
Well, and
The ones they're working on. Yeah, yeah.
I can't wait to see the 12K that's coming.
Mhm.
I'm going to keep an eye on that company through this channel because I love that there's somebody who's actually testing it and showing it in action without me having to spend that couple of $1,000s.
Yeah. And those high end driving games are some of the ones that require that kind of precision and speed and fluidity of going through stuff. So that is a good test for sure.
Yeah, and considering that the light, he was generally happy with that. Just the extra field of view that this brought for the racing games and flight sims, especially that is a big deal when you want to feel like you're there. But considering the lights were sufficient and how much smaller they are, those would be ones that I'd like to put into my consideration list. Eh, I just wish that the Quest 3 wasn't that much better. Like he said, they're made out of magic. It's kind of hard when you're spending $600-700 where these start to fall and not shooting for, the one that has the support, the accessories, the ecosystem that comes with being under Meta.
And that is the question, trying to look forward and seeing, but just seeing the spec bumps of the last few years and then thinking about what the bumps are going to be like over the next couple of years. That's pretty crazy. And, just seeing where they are now looks like a pretty interesting point to just jump right in with any of them, really. Look like you couldn't go wrong as far as most of it goes.
Yeah, and to see controllers that are actually complementing the games, like for a driving game like this, and what he did to get that realism. You are my virtual reality hero.
Oh, yeah. That was the real version of the thing I tried to do with those flight sticks way back when, where it was like, oh wow, you get a flight controller and a throttle, and this and that, and it does feel more realistic or more attached to the vehicle than you would otherwise. But it was nowhere near at that level for sure.
Yeah. The closest I got was like 1999, the Microsoft Sidewinder series, the force feedback, and I went and got the expensive one. It was like $250, but real force feedback, piece of crap pedal, which eventually broke, but um, that was the closest I got to the racing experience.
Mhm.
With the VR, and especially in a cage like that, where you can get some rumble and some additional, what do they call it? Tactical, haptic
Haptic
feedback.
feedback, yep. Mhm.
Yeah,
Tactile.
in that kind of setup, you're gonna feel like you're in a car.
Yeah. And that's where like the speakers make a big difference too. So that's where you need some subwoofers up in that thing. So
Yeah, I like that. Like, there's at least some options to like interchange, and if you're more hardcore with the audio and you really want it to be better, it's nice to be able to get the one that you're willing to spend more for, but have that option of at least a starter headset.
Definitely.
Yeah, I want a racing sim more than any other sim.
Yeah, I played some good
Optium
racing
Tech.
games.
Yeah, if I go back down this rabbit hole and build one, I'm gonna be back here. Nobody has done it cooler. At Optium, and he's up to 1.31 million subscribers. You go, boy. See, there are a lot of hardcore racing gamers.
Very much so.
Now, speaking of controllers, this is the area that I want to see more innovation in, but we're still kind of stuck in this concept of these hand controllers. I mean, they've come a long way, and he's going to show us how they've evolved from the piece of craps from the 2015 to somewhat less pieces of crap nowadays. And Plus, some of them take a unique approach. So, depending on how you like to game, you might want to consider which one you go with based on the controllers that they come with.
Controllers, it's always the tricky part, like you said. But again, trying to get to where we do hand tracking rather than controllers. But in the meantime, sometimes there are, you need more buttons, you need more options, more triggers, whatever it is. So it's good to have options, whether it's a mouse with 22 buttons on it or whatever. Just trying to find different ways of doing things.
Yeah, one of the categories that I wanted to go into tonight, but considering with just the controllers and the headsets, there's a lot to explore.
Yeah.
But the suits, which I think I even see some some of the videos that I've looked at where like these guys, they get hardcore. They've got vests with haptic feedback. There's knee pads and side waist accessories. These are the new controllers that are getting incorporated in that with these fighting games and things like that, it really changes everything.
Yeah, one of them that I saw something on at one point, it was either the Thumper or the Thump, something like that. The idea was it was a small speaker, but you basically wear it across your chest. And like if you were, like you were saying, in a game where if you get shot or something, it's just poof, like it's a loud speaker that's right there. So it really would feel, you'd feel something hit you there, or you'd feel something hit you.
Some of them are like subwoofers that are like boom.
Exactly. You will feel that for sure.
And the one clothing that I really want to see is gloves. Why a company hasn't come up with and this is where what you mentioned about camera, if you were to incorporate some cameras to, like we saw with the air drums and I've seen with these virtual pianos where it's reading the hand gestures, mixing that with this technology, you could essentially walk into a virtual room, sit down at a virtual grand, and start playing. Cole did it the other night.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't work as well as he wanted it to. Like, it's not precision yet, but right. I think if the software can learn and it does start to utilize some cameras that are steady and really tracking the hands, you could actually play a piano fluidly and feel like you're, at least sound like you're there. Yep. If the gloves had haptic feedback as well, they could make it so that you feel like you hit a key with a little buzz in your finger.
Yeah, and you can go the step ahead of that, the training side of it, where you have the haptic feedback on the back of the finger saying, play this finger now.
Yeah,
that finger.
Oh, imagine giving piano lessons with VR that way, where like the kid literally feels out the song.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I love that idea. Come on, VR, make us better musicians.
Again, that's not even hard. That putting like a little, like you were saying, a little subwoofer, a little tiny subwoofer in the back of each finger and in the fingertip of each finger, because you can just send a sound to a subwoofer and just get a little pushback, a little poop.
Yeah.
They'll get on it. Get on it, guys.
Yeah. Hey, it's coming. I guarantee you, it's coming. So here we're gonna kind of go back again. This is another like retro video that's you might remember some of these if you ever played around with any of these earlier VR systems.
Let's check it out.
I'm going to be ranking all the VR controllers over the last 15 years, S tier being the best and F tier being the worst. And at the end of the video, I'm going to promote one to the king spot and put one in the trash spot. Starting off with the Razer Hydra. It was made in collaboration with Six Sense Entertainment. It was actually released in 2011. Valve even teamed up with Razer. They created new portal levels and mechanics to be used with the controllers.
Said it's a magnetic field. It measures true position, true orientation, 6 degrees of freedom. The best way to sort of give you a good example is taking a cube and I go into this one-to-one mode and I can reach out in front of me And you can see how precise it can be. It can barely move, and you can see the cube barely move. We got a 1 millimeter of accuracy in positional change and 1 degree of accuracy in rotational change.
It was originally only intended to be used for games, but it didn't take the community long to start using it for other things. Then, when VR came along, people started implementing it. It was a bit susceptible to interference and the range wasn't the best as it had wires. But it's just an incredible solution for the time it came out. If you hid the sensor over something, the magnetic field could still track it, which I think is really cool. The controllers were wired, meaning they didn't need batteries and could run forever. That said, it's extremely annoying being tethered to wires while you're playing. It was one of the first ways to track your hands in VR with full positional and rotational movement. Back in the day, it would have gotten an A tier, but now I'd probably give it a C tier, just based on the innovation and how cool the technology is. There are just better options now, so they're completely redundant. So the Gear VR was a collaboration between Oculus and Samsung. The controllers feel good in your hand and they're super light for scrolling. One of the best things about them is the scrolling thing on the top. There's basically a trackpad. That said, you can't move it around freely in 6 degrees of freedom. You can only move it on the angles. It has up to 40 hours of battery life, but I don't think a single person on planet Earth has ever used one of these for that long. Most people I know use it for cooking videos, if you know what I mean. It's going in F tier. I never want to use this controller again. There were plans to make a controller with 6 degrees of freedom movement that would work with Gear VR, but these plans got trashed. Okay, so this guy called Lucky Palmer came along and the VR world's starting to become a reality. Along with the release of the CV1, we got this new 3DOF tracking controller. It only works on the angles and doesn't have positional tracking. It feels comfortable in your hand and the battery lasts longer than you would ever use it for. It was always a temporary controller until they finally finished the real ones. I'm gonna have to put it in F tier. They're just completely useless. The HTC Vive got released, and unlike Oculus, they actually released with controllers that were designed by Valve. They aren't the most comfortable to hold and are a bit outdated by modern standards. Valve decided to go with a trackpad on the top, and it's pretty clear now that a joystick was the right option. They use Valve's Lighthouse base stations, which just have flawless tracking. They work in a lot more lighting conditions compared to Oculus's ones, and the range was amazing. They also run wirelessly, so you don't have to run cables all around your room like the CV1. The batteries lasted about 4 hours in the controllers, and you would recharge them with a micro USB cable, as the battery was built into the controller. I usually prefer external batteries just because it allows the controllers to last longer, but it is what it is. My Vive is about 10 years old, and I don't have a problem with the controllers yet. I'm gonna have to put them in B tier. The shape they made them in is just awful. The addition of no joystick just makes playing games impossible. And finally, things were starting to ramp up, and the CV1 got these brand new touch controllers. Some of the first mass market VR controllers with 6-DOF movement ever made, meaning they had full positional tracking. As soon as you put them in your hands, it feels amazing. It features these rings which protect your hands from hitting the wall. It has capacitive touch sensors, meaning it can sense if your fingers are on the buttons or not. Not to mention the shape, which conforms to your VR hand perfectly. It gets tracked using the CV1's infrared trackers, which pick up a little light on the controllers. The tracking to me is perfect. While technically not as good as Valve's solution, I preferred it because the cameras never broke and they were completely silent. However, they were affected by light and they didn't scale the best. You would have to physically run USB cables around your room to get them working. I never noticed an issue with the accuracy either. The controllers ran on AA batteries. I'm gonna put them in S tier. These are some of the best VR controllers ever made, and it's just incredible they were some of the first as well. Sony entered the VR market with the PSVR. They decided to repurpose their old Move controllers, which they dug up from the grave of the former failed PlayStation Move. That's a story for another day. The controllers are actually quite comfortable. The buttons are strangely placed though, and the lack of a joystick makes it pretty hard to recommend. The tracking I would describe as borderline unusable, and the buttons followed a similar fate. Maybe Wes Watson could find a use for these, but it's an F from me. So Microsoft decided to enter the game with their Windows Mixed Reality controllers. They released to be used with Microsoft's new flagship mixed reality software. Back then, it was sold to us as the most budget-friendly way to play VR.
We will have the most affordable headset plus motion controller bundles, priced at just $399 for the set.
They use inside-out tracking. The controllers have these small LEDs on them, and the camera on your headset picks them up and translates the position onto the computer. If I told you the tracking on these was good, I would be lying. It's just bearable. Back then, maybe it was okay, but now I couldn't imagine ever wanting to use it. You'll often find it pausing, and the occlusion issues are terrible. That said, they were quite ahead of their time, and it's much easier not having to fiddle around with annoying base stations to play VR. You can just pick these up and get going. I'm gonna have to put them in D tier. Okay, then we got the Oculus Go for some reason, and it came with that similar remote to the Gear VR and original CV1. It's got that 3 degrees of freedom tracking, and you all know how I feel about that by now. I'm just going to save us all some time and just put them straight into F tier. I wouldn't want to use them for anything. So, the Vive ones are getting a much needed upgrade to work with Valve's new 2.0 base stations. Apparently there were some upgrades to it, like a more reliable trackpad, and with the new space stations you can use a bigger space and more items will be tracked in that space. It's the same as the original ones in my opinion, and it's going into B tier. I think a bare minimum in this update would be for HTC to add a joystick and angle the controllers a bit so it feels like you're holding it with your hand. Then Vive decided that they'll dip their feet into standalone headsets. The headset tracks with 6 degrees of freedom movement, but the controller only tracks with 3 degrees of freedom movement, and we're back to having a puck. I don't want to use these controllers ever again, they're just not good, and this is just going into F tier. I hope I don't have to use another one for this video. Now, Oculus created these touch controllers which use this new inside-out tracking technology. They were made to be used with the Rift S and new standalone product, the Quest. They are super comfy to hold, and I love the thin black design. They're a lot less clunky than the Windows Mixed Reality controllers. While the battery life could have been improved on these, and a lot of people did have issues with the battery covers coming off, it was pretty clear these were the future. The tracking also had some issues, but it got better with every software update. I'm going to put these in A tier. They were just the step in the right direction. Now, the Focus Plus got an update with these 6 degrees of freedom tracking controllers. They just don't fit in your hands right, and the buttons were super mushy. It's impressive that they were able to get these to work, but the tracking just isn't good. There's also a bit of a wobble while you're holding them due to the poor tracking. The tracking's terrible and it cuts out all the time. Using them for any sort of game is a frustrating experience. The battery lasts longer than you would ever want to use them for. I'm gonna have to put them in E tier. I don't think I would ever want to use these again. Most companies at this time were switching to more inside-out tracking controllers and away from the Steam VR tracking. Vive released the Cosmos and followed that trend, aiming to improve on their previous Focus Plus controller design. I love the addition of 2 buttons on the trigger, but no game really utilized this. The controllers were comfortable to hold and they had a much cooler design than other Windows Mixed Reality controllers. The tracking was just abysmal. I always had issues with the battery life, and sometimes just bringing them up, they just would never work. It was driving me crazy. I'm gonna have to put it in A tier. I still prefer them to those crappy 3DOF controllers, but they were just so frustrating to use and I don't ever want to pick them up again. So Valve decided to separate from HTC and build their own headset with their brand new industry-leading Knuckles controllers. The hype surrounding these was massive. Instead of having a grip sensor, they use capacitive touch sensors, which can track your individual fingers opening and closing. The way the controller was built, it had a strap around the outside, so you could let go of things in the virtual world while you're letting go of things in the controller. It was such a seamless and natural experience in games like Half-Life Alyx and Boneworks. They use Valve's 2.0 base stations, which, apart from the annoying setup and maintenance, the tracking is just completely flawless and perfect. The battery lasts about 7 hours, and the shell around it shields your knuckles from punching the wall. That said, the industry just moved away from their capacitive touch sensor finger tracking and towards grip buttons. Lots of games were optimized for the grip buttons, not Valve's controllers. So while playing things like Pavlov, it's not quite certain if you have to have your hand open or closed. It's pretty obvious that Half-Life Alyx was designed with this in mind, as you can't let go of your gun. The amount of people that experienced issues with the joysticks was countless. Anyway, it's going in S tier. I really do love them. It desperately needed an update that it never got. Classic Valve. One of the biggest VR headset releases of all time, the Quest 2 got released. We had these updated controllers, which were a little bit wider, white, and had a ridiculously long battery life. They would run on one AA battery and just last for months. It just baffled me. The tracking had issues, but every single week it felt like it was getting better with software updates. The AI was able to often quite accurately predict where your hand was when it was out of view of the camera. The algorithms they made for this are just incredible. The touch sensors and the grips are just perfect. One of my favorite controllers ever. One of the best features as well is when you just lifted them up, they instantly work. No fiddling around, they were just on and in your hands. Some controllers you have to reset, turn them on. These were just on in the game, ready to go. These are just going straight into A tier. Wow. Then the Pico Neo 2 released with some strange controllers we haven't seen since the Razer ones. At the top of the headset, there was this bar that created a magnetic field that the controllers would then get picked up by. It could even track your controllers through your body. Just incredible. And it worked up to 1.5 meters away. However, the tracking is much looser than the inside-out tracking we got on the Quest 2. You could definitely notice a slight shake and delay. I wonder if it's due to Pico software or that's just the technology. I wonder why Meta didn't utilize this tracking approach. I'm sure there's a good reason why. The batteries only lasted about 2 to 3 hours, and depending on how far away they were from the headset, it affected it. I'm gonna have to put it in C tier because of the comfort issues and the slight delay. So Vive's trajectory on controllers has been on the decline for a while, and to try and revive the brand, they released the Vive Focus 3, their flagship headset with these new inside-out controllers and a more questy design. The tracking on these was just abysmal, and it teeters on unusable. Often while playing, it just glitches out. It drove me insane. The triggers also have this weird thing where they double click at the bottom. Because of the tracking issues, I'm just gonna have to put them in D tier. I really didn't enjoy using these. So then Pico decided to ditch their magnetic tracking and switch to inside-out tracking. And we got these new controllers with the Pico 3. They're comfortable to hold and the tracking was good enough. That said, it's not as good as the Quest 2. But I'm happy to see an extra button which sends you back in the UI. But the controller was also very wobbly. But overall it was pretty good and I'm gonna put it in B tier. Pimax, everyone's favorite VR company, finally decided to make their own VR controllers. They're made to be used with Steam VR and feature a trackpad instead of a joystick. Along with the software and comfort issues, the general community just wasn't happy with these. They also had issues tracking when you would move them really quickly. They're gonna have to go into D tier. Okay, then we have the Quest Pro controllers, which I was so excited for when they released. Holding them, they feel perfectly comfortable. They just feel so small and fit the contours of your hand perfectly. The tracking is the best out of any VR controller in my opinion. No need for controllers, the onboard processor and cameras can track you anywhere. To charge them, you just have to pop them on the dock, and it's amazing. The only issue I had with these is sometimes they just take a little bit of time to turn on. You don't just lift them and they work. It can take 20 to 30 seconds sometimes. It did happen to me a few times where you lift them up and they're just not in the right position, so you have to shake them around a bit. That said, they going in S tier for me. Hands down the best controllers and just a marvel of engineering. This is the first time tracking on standalone headsets got better than the original headsets. Then the Pico 4 was released, often just referred to as the Quest 2 of China. It came with these newly designed controllers that threw in an extra record button on top of the Quest's controls. It came with rings on the outside that apparently help with occlusion. Honestly, I think it looks nicer than the Quest 2 and I prefer this design. You probably already know that the tracking just isn't as good as the Quest, but it's good enough, and I'm gonna throw them in B tier. Then PlayStation thought they would have another crack at VR. Coming with the inside-out tracking controllers, they seem to be good enough. A lot of reviewers complained about the creak and said they were a bit flimsy. One of the hands-down best features is the capacitive triggers. They have force feedback, meaning you could feel the feedback when you were firing something like a gun. This just felt amazing. The battery lasted about 4 hours and the rings are on the outside, which you guys know I prefer. It just protects your hands and feels a lot better with the weight distribution. They were overall pretty good, and I'm gonna put them into B tier. And then we got the Quest 3 controllers, which removed the tracking rings. Surprisingly, it didn't seem to affect tracking at all, and Meta's accuracy has just gotten better and better over time. They really worked on improving their algorithms. The controllers are super comfortable and incredibly light, a lot lighter than the Quest Pro controllers. I'm gonna have to put them in A tier. Behind the Quest Pro, I think they're the industry standard. They're just so far ahead of the other offerings. And with a lot of hype, Apple released the Vision Pro. Surprisingly, it released with no controllers. You would look at something with your eyes and then pinch your fingers. While innovative and implemented absolutely perfectly, it's almost completely useless for games, which I found a bit frustrating. That said, for general productivity tasks, it seems to do the job and it's much more efficient. But for games, I mean, how can you just use your hands? It just seemed completely useless. I'm gonna have to put it in B tier. The Quest Pro is gonna get the king spot. Despite those issues with it turning on, it's just the best offering out there. An absolute marvel of engineering. And in the trash spot, I'm just gonna have to put all those 3DOF remotes in. I just thought they were shocking. Let me know what you think, and I'll leave a poll below so you can vote on your own. Thanks so much for watching the video, and I'll see you all next time.
Oh, that is a man who knows his VR.
And he had all the toys to play with.
Apparently he does. This other video, I bought every HTC Vive headset. I'm gonna check that out later.
Nice.
I'm curious as to the HTC specs after seeing what we've seen, and
Mhm. And it definitely gives you a good, understanding of the different technologies, the way they were doing the hand tracking, the way it progressed over time, and the types of things that you might just, if you just get a headset, say, "Oh, I'll get this one because it's got the best specs." Then you get it and you realize that the controllers aren't what you wanted. It's important to take the whole thing into account.
well, and seeing it from his perspective and opinion, one who has tried all these different ones, his focus on the tracking and like that's what makes a good controller or a bad controller is going to be the tracking. The ones at the top stand out, and Meta. We're kind of seeing a theme here tonight. Meta is definitely a strong consideration for me for what direction to go here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Pico is interesting in that it's competing with it, and technology for technology, they're keeping each other innovating, but lack of access to it. What it's like trying to get foreign game consoles and foreign equipment that isn't targeted for a market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You end up with something that you get no support for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you have to, if you have one title or a couple of titles that you really like on it, that's great. And, maybe that's fine for you, but like some people, they want the whole ecosystem. They want to be able to try a lot of different things out, and you just might not have the access with certain ones.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the way he did this review on these controllers. I felt like I was watching the Simon Cowell of game controllers. I'm sorry. This is just trash. You are trash. I never want to use you again.
And then there's 3 more that are just as much trash.
Oh, and I recognized a couple of those trash ones. My nieces had a couple of different VR systems through there, and the one with the balls, the glowing balls, they had that one. What a piece of crap.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember Johnny Mnemonic? Like way back when? I mean, this is an early Keanu Reeves movie, but
loading the data into his head.
and he had gloves that had, it was like big gloves that had whatever, but he was able to just type on a virtual keyboard and open things and do almost Minority Report style stuff back before all that.
Yeah,
just trying to envision different controllers even back then.
You remember the Nintendo Power Glove?
I was going to say somebody came up with the glove for you way back then, but I'm thinking smart fabrics are going to help with getting to what you're thinking about, like just having a glove where it can, like they were saying, with some of those buttons that can detect your fingers moving before they're even touching the button, that kind of a thing. With the gloves, with a thin cloth glove, for example, you'd be able to feel all that if
at its simplest, if the glove had how they do wire framing for Hollywood when they're animating, and they'll put on like a black suit with like red highlights, and the cameras track those dots. Your hand with this kind of technology, one base station that's facing you with the camera can pick up all that finger and hand action if you've got the right kind of glove.
Yep. And it could even make use of things like not glowing paint, but glowing in certain frequencies. Like it's able to pick it up on the camera very well, but it's not brightly glowing in the room, for example. Just using whatever is on the design of the gloves.
Yeah, I feel like that is a direction they're going to start going in, because it's the most cost efficient approach. Cheaper to get a camera and cheap fabric than to try to build a digital glove that just knows. Eventually we'll get there, but
and again, it comes down to making the game respond to the movements of the gloves as well. So it's not just the hardware aspect, it's how it ties into the games, and how, like they were saying, certain controllers didn't seem to make sense for the games you're trying to use them in.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to pull a bow and arrow, for example, like the one that he was showing where you feel the trigger when you're firing certain types of weapons, that really makes a lot of sense to me. Like that really is immersive. That brings you into the game more.
And depending on the VR systems that you go with and the games that there are, if you're a shooter game type player, these controls are all over the place. Like some of them weren't designed for shooter games, and some of them might be more for creative, like the painting, seeing him with the paintbrush kind of approach. That's an interesting way to use VR.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that idea as well. You just, you have an idea of something you want to do. You just, instead of having to break out all the paints and do all the cleanup and all that, you just break out the VR controllers and just, whip up a quick, mock up of the idea that you had. And that way you're not losing it. Same idea with, like we do with songs. When you have a song idea, you just record a little nugget of it so that you have something to remind you of it later so that you can then give it the full treatment.
Yeah. And if you got a little kid and you want them to be able to get creative and paint without making a big ass mess, that's a perfect thing to throw at a kid.
Definitely.
So, at Joe Salt over on YouTube. This guy might be the king of VR, man, because that was a complete review on those controllers. I would have put even more of them in the garbage pail. I'm not impressed with the controllers that they've got so far, but
he should have titled the video, "I used all these crappy controllers, so you don't have to."
yeah, thank you. Now, this is another one. The most interesting product of all the ones that I've looked at for the VR. This is the one I've been saying for the last couple of years, like I need something like this if I'm really gonna want to experience it, especially for the shooting games. And seeing them in action, especially the top two that they're gonna show, makes me want one. You're seeing these gamers really go at it, really getting into the experience, getting healthy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah,
They are exercising.
Even just thinking about a round of something like, let's say, Call of Duty, a round, how much running around you do in a game like that? You're just like, you start out, okay, now you're going to go run over here. And if you have to do all that running yourself, you're definitely going to, it's different than sitting on the couch for, 9 hours. If you're sitting around running around for 9 hours, you definitely notice.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the other things I was talking with Cole about the other night, if you can simulate like the weight of the ammo that you're putting on, and if you can actually feel like you're carrying 50 pounds of ammo while you're running around on these things, this is how you train soldiers.
Yeah.
And make sure they're in shape.
Yeah.
Again, imagine a vest that could simulate or shift weight around so that you do actually feel like you're carrying the amount of equipment you would be if you're training for a mission.
Yeah. For that, yeah, I would use liquid would be the easy answer. Just water.
See,
That's that holds water, and you just pump it as much as you want over there. Okay. Oh, you're overloaded. Now
I love it. You're thinking out the box.
Water's heavy.
So this one's going to be coming from at Virtual Chap 2025, and what we're going to look at here is three kind of alternate to treadmills. They're not really treadmills, but they're other approaches. And then the top two are Ready Player One kind of mentality. Like you stay in one space and you run around in different directions. Matter of fact, the last one is the Ready Player One machine.
Yeah, nice. Looks like a trampoline, but yeah.
Yeah. So these are the top 5 VR omnidirectional treadmills, and this is up to date because I went and looked to see what's available right now. In 2025, these are the ways of doing this.
Right. Ready Player One.
How we move in VR is still one of the most fundamental issues. Virtual reality works well because interactions and movements are similar to what we already do in reality. But movement just, well, isn't. Current methods range from teleportation to thumbsticks, and that can have, well, unintended side effects.
And then
yeah. Thankfully, the virtual community has been working hard to solve this issue, from treadmills, slide mills, and some more unique methods. While all of these are not strictly treadmills, we are going to use the term loosely. So let's go over the top 5. Starting off are cyber shoes. This is a more convenient option for those who want to stay seated. Walking and moving around in VR can be, well, exhausting. So something that provides more immersion, less VR sickness, and you get to sit down is a win-win-win. They work by simply scanning the ground underneath so that they can detect the motion and velocity. Sort of like when you scroll on your phone, put your fingers at your feet. The cyber shoes just clip onto your existing pair of shoes, and then you find yourself a gesture for rotation and you're good to go. Compatible with both the Quest and Steam VR, so most users are covered here. The only issue that I have is that because you're in a seated position, you miss out on some fundamental movement functions, like crouching or jumping, which can lead to it feeling slightly unnatural. But it's a better solution than the thumbsticks. Next up is Decamove, a hip-based navigation system. This tiny device solves a big issue in VR movement, and that's the confusion between the direction you want to walk in and your head position. The amount of times I've been using the thumbsticks and head orientation only to find myself nearly breaking my neck whilst keeping my hip position neutral. Decamove solves this issue by using your hip direction as your forward motion, ensuring that that's the direction you walk in, freeing up your head to look in different directions. This is a vital piece of equipment when it comes to games like Onward or Pavlov. No more awkward exchanges between your head and body position. Decamove gives more of a natural element to locomotion. Although it's not a treadmill or walking replacement, still for the size and convenience, it needed to be in the top 5. At number 3 is VR treadmill shoes. Now there are many different companies and individuals working on treadmill shoes, so I won't pinpoint one specific creator, but this would be an incredible option if perfected. A simple add-on to your shoes that allows you to simulate the ground underneath. If a commercial product becomes available, this would be massive. No bulky of a piece of equipment taking up room, just something that can give you infinite walking freedom in something the size of shoes. The reason why this isn't lower on the list is the lack of development this product has received. I get the sense this is an incredibly hard problem to solve that requires heavy funding. Hopefully a company can make a commercial breakthrough with treadmill shoes, as it has applications that would stretch way beyond just VR. Before I get to the next one, can I please ask, if you do like the video, please like and subscribe. I really want to try and get this content to more people like you. At number 2 is something you probably already know about, slide mills, or the catwalk. The catwalk system involves you sliding your feet back and forth to resemble walking. Through a series of extremely successful Kickstarters, catwalk has become a household name in VR. With viral videos of people using these slide mills, it's no wonder they are popular. They look incredibly natural, and the range of motion is incredible. From sitting to jumping, you can achieve pretty much any position you can imagine. They are incredibly versatile and in constant development, and the constant developers getting them closer and closer to being affordable for the average VR consumer. Now, if you've used any sort of slide mills, you know what I'm talking about when I say it looks better than it feels. Slide mills take a bit of getting used to. For me, it completely eliminates motion sickness, so that's a definite bonus. But you essentially have to learn to walk in that specific way. The special shoes allow you to glide on the dish, but it's easier to lean into the slides rather than walk upright. Still, the catwalk is the best commercially available option for locomotion to date, and I'm grateful we actually have a viable solution. Last up is Infinidec, a true one-to-one virtual treadmill. This locomotion solution is the holy grail of VR movement. But not only that, it's used for rehabilitation for patients that have trouble using their legs. So the applications of this treadmill specifically extend way beyond VR and more medical, military, and hopefully one day consumer markets. The Infinidec was even used in the film Ready Player One. This is the gold standard in VR movement, and it works by calculating your position and velocity to keep you central to the treadmill. I've really got my fingers crossed to companies like Infinidec to really double down on shrinking this for the average consumer. Because if VR is the next computing platform, I can see one of these in everyone's home. This is the future of VR, and it's just the next step to full immersion. We are so close to evolving into something truly immersive, and it's now in our line of sight. The tech is there. We have everything in its first form. We just have to wait for the refinements to be made to these products, and we will get to that Ready Player One scenario. Who knows? It might be sooner than you think. I'd be interested to know what you lot think, whether you have any of these 5, and what you think the future of VR treadmills would be, or whether you think they're even necessary for the future of VR. Drop a comment down below and let me know what you think. If you like the video, you might like some of these. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you next time.
I like this content.
I do too. I mean, the Infinite Deck, that was the one I was looking for at the end there, because that's really what I was seeing. Like, you're sliding this way and it's one thing, you're sliding that way, it's another thing. It reminds me of the Infinite wheels, like wheels that can roll this way and roll that way at the same time.
Well, and he made it so inspiring there at the end when he's like, this is the future, not just for gaming, but for in some cases rehabilitation. Somebody who's recovering from an accident needs to learn to walk again. This takes the tools to a whole nother level. The applications here for this go into the health and fitness world. When you can merge the game time that people do, and you're worried about kids growing up fat and never getting outside, well, if they're doing this kind of gaming, they may actually be in great shape. They may not get the sun, but they will get the actual health benefits of gaming this way.
Yeah. And until it does get to where you can have it in every house, you could do, we could start seeing the advent of like VR arcades, where you have just setups of Infinite Decks where people can just jump in and, hang out. And like you said, whether it's for exercise or whether it's just, combination of exercise and gaming or whatever, you can get in and do, your thing there and eventually get one at the house.
Yeah. There's a couple of companies that have tried to take the virtual arcade route and have like it's like a combination of almost like laser tag. They went after the same kind of markets. They looked for the same kind of space because with laser tag you needed all this room, and with these virtual, like they're like virtual escape rooms, and you can play different virtual games in different environments in different rooms.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and you're basically renting it for like an hour, or 2 hours. Instead of having to pump quarter after quarter in, you're just paying flat out for a couple hours of heavy, like cool VR equipment.
Oh yeah, I like the idea a lot.
Yeah, I would love to try these treadmill solutions. I liked those first ones, the virtual shoes. There's some practical applications to that approach, and much cheaper. And again, you're still having to do some physical movement, so it's healthy.
Yep. One thing I could see being tricky with any of those is, maintaining your balance, in the real space while you're trying to move around. Like, how does it know when you're moving your feet because you're trying to stop from falling over versus when you're moving your feet to try to move your character? That kind of a thing can be tricky to try to work out.
Yeah. And Ange is reminding us you shouldn't wear them for hours.
That's correct.
You may harm yourself.
Yes. Always take breaks, safety breaks, get up, move around, go touch grass outside. Get some sunlight.
Because we do things safely at Angified.
That's right. Everything in moderation.
Yeah. Now, that number 2 solution that they had in there, the catwalk, the whole reason why I went down this rabbit hole is because that's what I'm looking for. Not just something you can run in that circle, but what's interesting with it is the way it deals with your waist and mounts you in a way so that you can't go running into a wall and crouching, because some of these games, like if
Yeah.
you're using the other solutions, it's not picking up your crouching, strafing, things that you want to be part of the experience.
Yep.
Seeing this cat in action with some of these gamers, and this new one that has just come out, we're hitting the sweet spot in price, $8.99 retail. So people, the hardcore virtual gamers, they're going to start buying these for sure.
Yeah. No doubt.
And again, when you see the people actually playing here, it's like, wow, they are in the game.
Yeah. And that the one with the zombie game and running around to see what's behind you. I mean, those type of games can really freak you out. And
Yeah.
you can end up breaking your equipment just trying to jump out of the catwalk and something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that like there's going to be a case out there where somebody disconnects or something loosens it, they go flying into a wall, but it's
Those look very immersive.
It's pretty solid. And Cass and Cherry here, they're VR, AR, and beyond enthusiasts. Her review of this is awesome. She's reviewed the other ones, because this is like the fourth generation or third or fourth, and each time they've managed to get the price into a sweeter spot, update features. I mean, this is the kind of company I want to be building this kind of product, because incremental improvements and price reduction.
Nice. At the same time.
Yeah, who would have thunk it? So this is the recent C2 Core model, the cheapest next-gen VR treadmill that you can get.
Right.
A couple of years ago, this Ready Player One scene felt like decades away, but it didn't take that long for companies to take this idea and turn it into reality. One of these companies is Cat VR. They brought a VR treadmill that let you walk, crouch, jump, and even run within the game. It was the first consumer-grade treadmill that wasn't hyper expensive, so people could actually get one for their homes. Yet, like any pioneering tech, it had its hiccups. One of them is the cost and complexity of making VR treadmills. It's still expensive enough to make it a hard sell to anyone but the most committed VR enthusiasts. Enter Cat VR's latest solution, the Catwalk C2 Core. Stripped back to the bare essentials, yet promising to deliver the same VR treadmill experience, but now at a reduced price. Just to illustrate how far we've come, early treadmills catered only to businesses, costing thousands of dollars. Then the first consumer version came and retailed at around $1,500, followed by a second-gen model at $1,300. The new C2 Core, however, breaks a new price boundary at $899 during pre-sale and $999 post-pre-sale. Plus, it will ship to more locations at half the cost of its predecessors. Okay, yes, at just below $1,000, it's still not exactly a pocket change, but it's a small but sure step towards making VR treadmills more mainstream. A big thanks to Cat VR for partnering with us and sending us a review unit. They've requested honest opinions, and that's exactly what I intend to deliver. Having been lucky to test all their previous treadmills, today I'll compare them with the C2 Core and share my initial impressions. I'm especially curious to see if this new model really still offers the same experience as its pricier siblings. So what separates the various models? Cat VR's products are are all about locomotion. First, they have the Cat Loco S, which is not a treadmill, but a wearable that translates walking on the spot into in-game movement, potentially alleviating motion sickness for some users. The first real foray into consumer VR treadmills was the Catwalk C. Then came the C2 line, an improved version of the original with a better price tag, which led to the discontinuation of the first-gen model, which makes sense. So what did the C2 bring to the table? Well, better movement through improved sensors, redesigned shoes, and a one-size-fits-all design. So no matter your height, you could step onto the C2 as long as you've got the right shoes. You can upgrade this version to the C2 Plus, adding a retractable seat for things like spaceship flying missions, not to mention integrated haptic feedback and snazzy underglow lights. Fast forward to the recently released device, the C2 Core. It's stripped back, leaving out the fancy stuff like lights and the seat, but it keeps all the key ingredients needed for walking in VR. The Core shares the same shoes and sensors, but its treadmill design has a tweak. There's a new tall pole, making it still accessible to all heights. You still have your full 360-degree range of movement, including the ability to crouch and jump. So, does it deliver the same kind of walking experience? My initial impressions are promising. I haven't detected much difference in walking compared to the other devices. Just like the older treadmills, it's not exactly like your everyday stroll, it's more like learning to walk anew. But once you master it, it starts to feel pretty solid. I tested it with a couple of my current go-to games, Vertigo 2 and Hubris, and the tracking seems to hold up well. However, one thing I did notice is that trying to simulate swimming or flying while suspended isn't going to work. Keep in mind, this is generally an unsupported move on all devices, so I wouldn't advise trying, but I gave this a shot anyway as it's fun. On the standard C2, I could get away with it, but on the C2 Core, I found that it struggles to keep me balanced in midair. It's kind of like my attempt to get you to subscribe, but the setup, I was pleasantly surprised. It's gotten incredibly straightforward. The manual is great and they've thoughtfully included everything you need right down to gloves for protection and pre-sorted screws. Cat VR software has come a long way too, which is essential for getting the treadmill to work with pretty much any PC VR game that supports smooth locomotion. Setting up game profiles is a cinch, usually requiring only the selection of the controller and walking button that you use. If you're planning on getting more complex with the catwalk, the initial setup might take a bit more time, but once you're done, just save your settings and you're ready to slide. Being a software design graduate, I'm big on good user experience design, and I have to say, Cat VR has taken significant strides in improving theirs. But that brings us to some disadvantages of this device. Firstly, the setup, while significantly simplified from previous iterations, still presents a hurdle for those ready to dive right into VR. You need to boot up an extra device, ensure all sensors are tracking, don your VR shoes, and strap in. If you're using a wired PC VR headset, there's the additional step of tending to cable management. It's a bit like prepping for a marathon when sometimes you just want to go for a quick sprint. It does, however, get a tick for compatibility with Quest VR headsets, which allow wireless streaming of PC VR games, which is what I did here using Virtual Desktop, and it was really nice. After the initial setup, I could get ready to play in about 5 to 10 minutes. And the Cat Nexus could be an alternative. This allows you to use treadmills with standalone Quest games. It works with the standard C2, but sadly it doesn't yet support the C2 Core. However, Cat VR is actively working on this, so I hope to test it in my final review. Then the size and weight. The C2 Core is a beast of a machine, not something you could easily move. I even had to persuade the delivery guy to bring it up to my apartment on the 7th floor. He wanted to leave it downstairs because that's apparently normal with big pallets. Thankfully we have an elevator, or else I don't think I would have been able to persuade him. But I gotta say, setting up the device in a small room went surprisingly smooth. You need some space, but thanks to the detailed manual that even tells you how to remove the boxes, I was able to do it nicely. I mean, it makes sense as the treadmills has been designed with a space-saving mindset. for those who don't have a lot of room to walk in VR, so it should be ideal for smaller rooms. I found that even if you don't feel like tiring yourself out by walking yourself, you can still stand on it and use it for rotating while still using the joystick for walking. But now let's talk about in-game navigation. I think those accustomed to joystick-based artificial turning might have some trouble getting used to turning with the treadmill. I usually like to turn with my physical body even without the treadmill, so for me, adapting to the treadmill's turning mechanism was more of a natural progression, so if you're like me, you can probably get used to it pretty fast. Walking backward or strafing, left or right, is also possible by using certain feet gestures, but I could not get into this. It feels slower, making the joystick more convenient for these movements, so I've been using the joystick in combination with walking myself, and that works pretty well, but I plan to practice more to see if that changes anything. That does make me guess that fast-paced competitive games might not be as suitable on the treadmill, as joystick users could have an edge due to their speed. But with single-player slower games like Half-Life Alyx and Vertigo 2, using the treadmill has been fun. However, the big question remains whether this will become a permanent part of our VR experience or end up as an expensive piece of furniture. I'm keen to incorporate it more into my VR routine and provide a full review. You may have noticed that I skipped a video for the previous C2 due to time limitations, but I plan to make up for it by reviewing both in an upcoming video. My initial verdict is that the C2 core does deliver on the treadmill VR experience like other versions. While certain movements are off the table, all the most essential walking movements work as well. I'm happy to see a relatively more affordable price, more game support, and better ease of use, which could lead to more frequent use. I'm definitely interested to see what this will bring. Are you interested in getting one now, or should the price be lower than this? If so, what price range would you think would be best? Let me know in the comments. For those interested in getting one already, I'll put links along with a discount code below, which will be available after August 1st when the pre-sale starts. You don't have to use this link or discount, but it helps us earn a small fee that helps support the channel. Anyways, thank you for watching, like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to join us beyond reality, and if you want to see more, check out this video right here.
Cass and Cherry over on YouTube.
Nice.
I love that she was determined to give an honest review. She's like, they asked me for an honest review and I'm determined to give it, and she did. I mean, I'm convinced enough that I would want one in at $8.99. Actually feel like that's it. I would like to see it at $4.99, but given what it needs to do, and it needs to be rugged, because that waist thing really does have to hold you, especially when you're leaning in on the run. The $4.99 might be the one where you accidentally run into the wall.
What I was thinking about with the looking at the setup and looking at, it's supporting your waist and you're going up, you're going down. When she started doing the swimming thing, right? It reminded me of for toddlers, like you would hang something from like a door, and it would be like a spring thing, like they could bounce.
Yeah, learn to exercise their legs.
Yeah, exactly. Like something like that would actually, if you had the ability to like hang something from the ceiling, you could have something supporting your weight, and then your feet could be free to just,
And when you look at the wire framing again in Hollywood, when they do make humans look like they're doing superhuman martial arts on the wires, a system like this, if you could incorporate some of that kind of wire approach, then technically you could be like strafing those movements that she says, are currently limiting.
Sure.
I'm sure they're going to come up with a way to like shift from being in running mode and turning it into like, okay, I'm flying.
Yeah. The trick in a lot of cases is something like, imagine a zombie game, right? And a zombie's coming right at you, and your initial, thing is to try to dive to the side. Well, having a button to dive to the side instead of diving to the side is a very different, reaction, where, if everything else is all you're running to go forward, and then you're, crouching, you're getting up, and then to dive to the side, you have to do something else. It seems
Well,
weird.
and that's why when she mentioned the turning kind of system, and like she liked the approach of turning with your hips, but if you're used to doing that with the controllers, like it takes a little reprogramming to stop doing that with the controller and start doing that with your body.
Yeah. Interesting road we're going down, though.
Yeah, yeah. And that delivery guy, if I have to bring it up to the 3rd floor, you gotta let me try it.
The 7th floor.
Okay, then I definitely want to try it.
It was they had an elevator, so.
I'll bring it up, but you gotta let me play with it.
Not a very fast setup, so it's like, you better be patient. So you're gonna bring it up here. It's gonna take us a while. We got to unbox. We got to film the unboxing.
Yep, some assembly required.
Some assembly required, but the tools included. That's good.
Yep. At Cass and Cherry over on YouTube. Thank you. That was the exact product I wanted to see tonight, more than anything else.
Yep. And one thing I was mentioning was the way the foot motion looks like, learning to walk again and all of that looks like it was a little bit awkward, but one of those things that, you get used to as you're using it, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then after I looked at this, I was like, okay, if I'm going to play one of these shooter 3D games, which is what I would want that really for,
Sure.
The guy that she was showing in the like little commercials during her video, Marty looks like that guy when he's playing. And I wanted to look at some of the gun controllers, because that really changes the experience of the game, especially when you're changing them and grabbing ammo. And this guy really gets into the game. I mean, he's got the vest, he's got accessories. Some of these that he's going to show you, they have magnetic switches that you can replace with other controllers. It's the kind of gaming that I think is immersive when you get these kind of controllers. And this is at Marty Dude VR, total VR channel filled with all sorts of cool stuff. I want to be just like him. But he's gonna show 3 different ones that are his go-tos, and any one of these would be cool. But the one that gets me is the green one, the last one that he shows. Not only is it the most cost effective, it's got some of the coolest like features for interchanging and switching controllers that I'd rather pay less and get more.
Yeah, absolutely. So just be careful walking around with that.
Yeah. It's got nice colorful buttons. It doesn't look dangerous. Wait till you see what those buttons do too. It's got some great features. Every one of these I wouldn't mind having. Like if I'm playing this game, I might use this controller. If I'm playing this game, I might use that one.
Nice.
Having good aim while playing VR is very important. I'm Mardu VR, and today we're going to talk about the best gun stocks that you can buy for VR. I've been playing VR shooters since 2020, and I finally compiled a list of my favorite VR gun stocks from companies that I partner with and I haven't partnered with. And we're going to talk about the ones you need and what type of VR shooters they're good for. The gun stocks in today's video is going to be from Deadeye VR, ProTube VR, and Skull VR. Hopefully by the end of this video, you can pick what gun stock fits your perfect playing style and the VR shooters that you play. And before we get into the video, any gun stock that you see today is gonna have a link in the description below if you wanna get one and maybe a discount. And make sure you go to vrrock.com, get some subscription lenses for your VR headset. I use VRRock for all my VR headsets from MetaQuest, PSVR 2, Big Screen Beyond, and even the Valve Index. VRRock is the most affordable prescription lens you're gonna find on the market, and the shipping time is always great. Use code MartyDude for 10% off. Help me help you save some money. And with that being said, let's get to the video. First up, we have the Enforcer haptic rifle stock and pistol accessory from Deadeye VR. This Quest exclusive gun stock comes in at a whopping $209. Even with the price, this gun stock is my favorite design out of the three because it just looks so cool. This dope gun stock is designed to function as both a rifle and a pistol accessory, giving you flexibility across different shooting styles and the game types. Fair warning, this thing is a nightmare to assemble. I felt like I was building IKEA furniture in the dark, but once it's set up, absolute game changer. Outside of my assembly struggles, the Enforcer features built-in feedback that simulate recoil, adding a satisfying kick to your shots for extra immersion. On the Enforcer, there are 3 firing modes: full auto, burst, and single shot. And switching between them is mad easy because the switch is so close to your finger. What I love most about the Enforcer is how easy it is to detach the pistol attachment. While it's not ideal for games where you're constantly reaching for backpacks and picking up stuff like Contractor's Exfil Zone or even like Into the Radius, it's absolutely perfect for running gun shooters like OG Contractors or PvE focused games. The ability to swap between rifle and pistol play makes it super versatile. Also, the newer model comes with a USB-C charging port, so no more messing around with battery swapping, just plug it in and charge. I was a little skeptical at first when Deadeye VR sent me this gun stock, but holy guacamole, it makes some of my games so much better. I personally always had an issue switching to pistols when it came to games like Contractors, even Veil, or anything like that. So having a pistol attachment built into the rifle or into the gun stock is amazing. And it's crazy how easy it is to switch from rifle mode to just pistol mode, and even putting the pistol back on the rifle. All it takes is a flip of a lever and you're good to go. If you want a flexible solution with immersive recoil feedback and don't mind a bit of setup hassle, this could be the gun stock for you. I've literally had so much fun using the Enforcer, and I genuinely recommend it to anyone. Plus, if you don't need a pistol attachment, there is a non-haptic Enforcer stock available as well. Next up, we got the Force Tube haptic gun stock from ProTube VR. The base version of this gun stock is called the Mag Tube. That is the cheaper option and was my first gun stock love. But we got to talk about the Force Tube today. This is a top tier option designed for players who crave maximum, and I mean maximum immersion in their shooters. With that being said, it also has a maximum price to match it. My Force Tube setup alone costed me $349, but a simpler setup with the Haptic Explorer attachment and a 2-point sling starts at $323. Now, it's still pricey, but absolutely worth the investment. What's great about the Force Tubes is you can buy different controller cups, so I grabbed cups for the PSVR 2 and even my Valve Index. The Force Tubes' claim to fame is its powerful recoil feedback that simulates realistic gunfire. And I'll keep it real with you guys, I doubted how effective the feedback was. I'm like, it's just overpriced. There's no way it can be that good. But when I first felt the recoil from this thing, my mind was absolutely blown. It legitimately is the closest thing to firing a real blaster or rifle in VR. Playing the Star Wars mod for Contractors or even the Halo mod with this gun stock is absolutely incredible. Laser weapons have literally never felt better in VR. Now, this thing is a little heavy, I'm not gonna lie. If you're a person who is either on like a VR treadmill like myself, this thing get heavy after a while, or just somebody who's not used to kind of carrying that type of weight while playing VR or even playing competitive shooters, you have been warned. The Force Tube attachment is not light, it's pretty chunky. The Force Tube also comes with a Bluetooth dongle that connects the gun stock to your PC. All you need to do is download the ProTube VR Companion app, and boom, in the app, you can simulate different weapons and configure settings to match your playstyle. Thanks to this sturdy build, this gun stock is built to last. It's perfect for dedicated VR shooters looking for immersion and precision. If you're serious or even very competitive in terms of your VR first-person shooter games, I'd highly recommend the Force Tube. And if you're not trying to put all the money in for the Force Tube, I say even get the Mag Tube. because the mag tube is also amazing and I literally used it for years. So even if you're not ready to invest into a full haptic gun stock setup, you literally can't go wrong with ProTube VR. Lastly, I introduce you guys to the magnetic military green Skull VR Smart Stock for Quest headsets. This is the simplest and most budget-friendly option of the three, coming in at just $103, and for that price, it's an absolute steal. It features a very lightweight design that's ideal for extended VR sessions, keeping you comfortable without feeling weighed down. As someone who runs on a VR treadmill most of the time when I'm playing VR or even during my streams, I really appreciate this lightweight build. I get so tired of using the other two gun stocks after a while, but the Skull Smart Stock keeps things light and very manageable for your boy. One of its standout features is the magnetic mounts. This allows for quick detachment and reattachment of your controllers, perfect for fast-paced games where you need to swap weapons or interact with objects. What really sets this version apart is the included cheek rest and extender. This adds even more comfort and precision. While the Skull VR Smart Stock skips the haptics like the other ones in favor of simplicity, it's designed to boost your aim and stability without any extra fuss. And it genuinely does that. This is one of the lightest gun stocks that I've ever used, and it honestly is one of the best that I've ever used for that reason. This smart stock really taught me that sometimes less is more. With this one being so much lighter than the other ones, I aim a lot faster with it, and man, am I precise. And best of all, it's the cheapest option, making it a really great pick for gamers on a budget. Overall, I feel like this smart stock can go for any VR shooter that you would think of. I mean, it works good for games like Contractors, works good for VR, works great for PvE games, Into the Radius. This one really fits any use case because I mean, it's so light. All right, guys, which gun stock are you most interested in? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe button to support the channel. We're closing in on 10,000 subs, and I love to have you guys on board on the journey. Thank you also to the companies in this video for sending materials and partnering with me. I genuinely enjoyed putting this video together. And with that being said, it's me, Mardu VR. And remember, I'm just a dude with a VR headset. Peace.
Man, tell me he is not a pro gamer.
Yeah. I like the setup. I like all the gun stocks. Yeah, I like that third one the best, I think, as well. Just the magnetic attachment of that last piece and the speed with which you could do the different things. It looked like it was very solid for that.
Yeah, I wish that it had the haptic feedback that the second one has, because I could honestly see buying all three. I can understand why he has all three. For the first one, I love the button switching for different kinds of types of guns.
Sure.
The second one, I love the haptic feedback. My brother would go nuts. Wants realism like that.
Exactly.
And me, the third one with the control. A lot of games, it's all about like changing guns and grabbing gear and sticking things on. And the third one gives you that experience.
Yep, exactly. And that's why the third one would probably be my go-to, but I could see the use case for the other two as well.
I might spend as much on the gun stocks as I do on the damn goggles.
Yeah.
Throw the cat core in there, like that's also as much as the goggles, if not more in some cases.
But now you got a real setup.
A VR setup like that, the hardcore gamers, $2,000, I think, is about the sweet spot.
Nice.
And I mean, we haven't even talked about the machine, and a lot of these aren't demanding super NVIDIA cards. From what I'm seeing, like the 2000 series, or the RTX 2000s or higher.
Yep.
On the AMD side, 4 or 5 year old AMD cards are still kicking for VR. So you got options.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, a lot of people might already have, a PC that is capable of all these things, and it would just be all of the, when you're going to jump into the VR, it is just all of those additional pieces that you need, all of the VR specific pieces. They already have the PC and the video card to do it.
Yeah. These additional controllers are just the sugar on top of the frosting.
Just another way to change the experience a little more.
Yeah, at Marty Dude VR, thank you for that, because that is an accessory that if I'm gonna jump into the VR world, and I think my brother is going to be my path in, because if he sees that it's this cost efficient now, he's got a workout room that this would replace like some of those like treadmills that he doesn't want to use because they're boring.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've looked at all these cool controllers and all these cool headsets. But
what are we going to play with them?
Once you got the gear, it's all about the games. And the new VR games are really starting to, you're no longer just like playing in a little virtual room where not much is going on.
Right.
You are playing in the action now. And if you do got one of those treadmills, some of these games are going to be fun to play on.
When we were looking at the controllers in the other video, one of them that they were playing basically had like a little blurb. It said something about like, it's like Spider-Man with guns. And that looked like, that's what I'm going to check out for sure.
I did check it out. I was like, "Oh, you kidding? I want to be Spider-Man with guns." I almost threw that one in here, but I was like, "No." Then I'm just catering to myself.
and me.
Maybe they'll show it in here. It might. There's some new ones that they're working on for sure in the Spider-Man department.
Nice.
So. This Mateo is going to show us these, and it's at Gaming with Mateo 311 over on YouTube. And these, I wanted ones for 2025. These are ones that are either about to be released or are going to be released. It's pretty fresh.
Nice. I am a big gaming fan for sure.
Yeah. I'm gonna be if I can immerse myself.
Immerse yourself.
Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I'm Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. Today, we're taking a look forward into what 2025 has to offer us VR gamers. Now this is primarily a list of confirmed games, but I will sneak some rumors and hardware information in towards the end. There are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but before we jump in, this video is brought to you by my long-term sponsor, Kiwi Design. If you're looking to make your Quest headset much more comfortable, or you want a top-of-the-line battery pack for up to 3 hours of extra gameplay, well then I highly recommend their brand new K4 Boost head straps. It's now available in both traditional and Halo strap versions, and not only are they cheaper than what Meta has to offer, they're also way more comfortable with some extra plush material. There's a link to Kiwi down in the description, and don't forget to use discount code Mateo311 for 5% off and to help support my channel. So I have roughly 20 games on today's list, plus 4 pieces of hardware. I'll be going through these in no particular order, so let's start things off with a title I'm excited about, Arcane Age. Arcane Age has you jumping into an action-adventure title that features both some physics-based combat and unique gunplay. They're promising a 15-hour campaign with a high level of replayability, an interactive storyline where you uncover the secrets of an alien world, plus a unique weapon crafting system. Now this game is launching right around the corner and I'm getting more and more excited because the game is starting to give me some Stormland vibes. So if you're interested in learning more about this game and you're not already subscribed, make sure to do it now because I promise to cover the release of this title. Now sticking with the action-adventure genre, we have Pirates VR Jolly Roger. Now I remember seeing footage of this game years ago and thinking it looks way too good to be true. You'll find yourself stranded on a remote Caribbean island, and of course, like normal, it's hiding some dark secrets. You'll not only be trying to survive the elements, but you'll also be battling some undead pirates. Jolly Roger is promising to be an epic journey filled with some absolutely stunning graphics with a nice little comic relief pirate at your side. And it's another game I'm planning to jump into as soon as possible. Now if you want to leave the island behind and find yourself stuck in some caves, we have Cave Crave. Designed to be the most realistic and probably the first VR spelunking game. It plans to focus on true-to-life mechanics where you'll need to chalk your hands, use a hammer and axe to bypass obstacles and properly climb on some surfaces, and you'll also need to maintain your gear if you want to survive. So it looks like they're leaning much more heavily on the game's mechanics rather than cheap scares or an epic storyline. Now the Climb VR was pretty awesome, so while this isn't exactly my type of game, I'll still remain optimistic. But But now to completely change things up, let's get lost in a virtual world inside of a virtual world with Cold VR. Cold VR takes the overall theme of super hot and pulls a 180. Rather than enemies only moving when you move, you need to keep up a high pace to slow down time. I've already played some beta versions and it shows a lot of promise, so I'm absolutely pumped for this one, and it's also planning to deliver a trippy little storyline with some nice surprises. Now, continuing on with that Black Mirror type of theme, we have the interactive movie Human Within. Human Within plans to show us the consequences of uploading someone's consciousness into a digital world. It combines 360-degree stereo filming with 6-DoF 3D environments. The storyline branches off in multiple different directions based on the choices you make, and by the end you should feel like you are part of an epic storyline. Now, I'm 100% pumped to try this out, but I'm not sure if you guys would want me to cover this on the channel. If you do, let me know down in the comments right now. But if interactive storylines are not your style, how does some air-to-air combat sound? Aces of Thunder plans to bring the thrill of aerial combat by combining simulation mechanics with high-fidelity graphics. This is a World War II flight sim featuring over 20 different planes that was built from the ground up to give you a highly immersive VR experience. You can feel free to utilize the virtual HOTAS or your full sim rig if that's your style. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for this one because it does look pretty damn cool. Now, I wouldn't say our next title looks cool, but it definitely looks unique. The Midnight Walk is a claymation stylized, creepy journey through a world of wonder and terror. You'll have to outsmart an array of monstrous creatures who look even more terrifying with that claymation stop motion style. It's really unsettling in the trailers, and I'm wondering what this will be like in VR. And the unsettling atmosphere continues with Pools VR. This is basically a walking simulator with top-tier graphics and a super creepy and highly immersive atmosphere. There's no real puzzles to solve or enemies to battle, it's just you navigating this unique environment. Now, if you don't think this sounds like much, go check out the reviews of the flat version on Steam. It's listed as overwhelmingly positive, described as utterly compelling, and best of all, it's under $10. But if that nightmare's not for you and you crave a storyline, I'm happy to finally get the release of Wanderer Fragments of Fate. After multiple delays, this time-traveling, story-driven puzzle adventure title is finally set to release in early 2025. I played the original version of the game over a year ago, and it's already an epic and extremely challenging experience. This remake is updating the graphics, a bunch of mechanics, and giving us some additional content. The overall production value on this title is also top-notch, so if you're someone who gravitates towards the AAA experiences, you should definitely put this game on your wishlist. But now we're jumping back to horror games, as a classic title is being ported to VR. Slender Man: The Arrival is basically a cult classic. It introduced a new iconic villain, and I originally live-streamed this game with my wife over 10 years ago, and we were left needing a pair of diapers. Getting chased by the gangly Slender Man is going to be so much more terrifying in VR. Now, if you've never seen this game before, it's basically a walking simulator where you travel through some creepy environments, and every once in a while you have to run your ass off as the Slender Man starts chasing you. Now, if you prefer to fight back against hideous creatures, we have Zombie Army VR. This is a brand new experience set in the Zombie Army world, where you need to battle the remnants of Hitler's army, which have now become zombies. The campaign is fully playable in co-op, and it also has that iconic Sniper Elite X-Ray kill cam. Now, I originally played this at Gamescom, and my experience was actually pretty different than what I heard from a bunch of other YouTubers. Yes, the inventory system was a bit archaic for what you expect from a VR game, but the overall gameplay was fun, and it felt like an action-oriented version of Sniper Elite. Now, my demo was only 40 minutes, but I also didn't experience any odd bugs during that time, unlike what I heard reported by some other people. So my fingers remain crossed on this one, and I'm still hoping it'll be a fun time to play through with a buddy. Now, to jump away from the whole horror theme and overly brutal combat, let's move into the VR port of RoboQuest. This is an absolutely beloved, fast-paced, first-person shooter roguelite that originally released on flat screen in 2023. Flat the VR Studios got their hands on this one, and now they're bringing it to VR. Now, the game features that cel-shaded style of graphics that always looks really good inside the headset, and while I'm not super excited for yet another roguelite, this game has already proven itself to the flat screen community with overwhelmingly positive reviews, so this is yet another game that I can't wait to experience. There's also 2-player co-op in this game, which is another big win. But let's slow down the pace with the board game title All On Board. Yet another game that I experienced back at Gamescom. All On Board is planning to be your go-to tabletop simulator. Currently, they have 6 licensed games, including Rallyman GT, Escape the Dark Castle, The Hunger, The Binding of Isaac 4 Souls, Terraforming Mars, and Istanbul. They're planning to add a lot more games over time, and it also includes the classics like chess and checkers. The title's also playable in mixed reality mode if you want to go for a more authentic tabletop feel. But now let's get back to the action with a game that's been in the works for years. Into the Darkness was promising to be a first-person shooter with Boneworks-like mechanics. Now, I played some early builds a couple of years ago and thought it needed a lot more time in the oven. Well, I'm glad to see the studio agreed and never stopped working on this game. If they could pull off the whole Boneworks mechanics with an actual single-player story-driven first-person shooter experience, then we should have a win on our hands. The game does showcase a lot of promising features, but when I played it, it just didn't feel right. So hopefully over all this time, they've been able to smooth out the rough edges, and we'll now have another big title on the way. And speaking of big titles, Hitman is getting its 4th attempt at a VR version. After 3 less than completely successful ports of Hitman 3, the PlayStation VR 2 is getting Hitman World of Assassination, and let's hope they finally do this epic stealth title some justice. If you're not aware of what marred the original ports, it was everything from broken mechanics, massive bugs, performance issues, and finally some horrible graphics. So like they say, the 4th time is the charm. I don't know, fingers crossed, but oh my god, it's so hard to be optimistic. My optimism does, however, skyrocket with gunman contracts standalone. Let's leave the stealth behind in this John Wick-inspired first-person shooter. This was originally an absolutely fantastic mod for Half-Life Alyx, and now the developers have moved it into a full title for both flat and VR players. It promises to deliver some top-notch action, all while being extremely realistic, gritty, and brutal. This is easily one of my most anticipated games of 2025, and I will definitely be covering this one. Now, next up, we have a game that I already covered, but that was its PlayStation VR 2 release, and questers are still waiting on Alien Rogue Incursion. This is an action horror-themed first-person shooter set in that iconic Alien universe. You'll be battling swarms of xenomorphs, the occasional ultra-creepy facehugger, and there's a few other surprises in store for you. Now, I thoroughly enjoyed my PlayStation VR 2 playthrough, but it did lack a little bit of polish and gets a little bit grindy towards the end. Hopefully these extra few months clean up the Quest version, because I'm sure plenty of people are gonna love this one. And speaking of love, one of my all-time favorite first-person shooters in VR, Vertigo 2, is getting a brand new DLC. Enter the Ether is an interdimensional traveling story expansion for this title. They're introducing some new tools for both traversal and defense, and you can expect plenty more of the game's typical zaniness. For the first time, you're also taking on the role of mad scientist Brian, so it looks like this is stacking up to be another fantastic release of 2025. Now, before I switch into hardware news, I just want to mention my most highly anticipated title that's yet to be confirmed for this upcoming year. Resolution Games has promised us an officially licensed D&D experience. And that is basically all the information we have. I expect it'll take on a gameplay mode similar to their previous experience Demio, but there is absolutely zero information out there, and trust me, I'm constantly trying to get some news. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up waiting longer than 2025 for this one, and when we first heard the announcement that Resolution Games was working with Wizards of the Coast, that was just when they signed the deal and nothing was in production yet. I don't care, I'm willing to wait more than a year for this one, but if someone successfully combines VR with Dungeons and Dragons, you might never see me again. Okay, so now let's jump into the confirmed hardware of 2025, and I'll use that term confirmed with air quotes for our first item. Pimax is back, and this time they have their Dream Air. The company that was known for always giving us a really wide field of view was like, nah, forget that, let's just go tiny, aim for the size of the big screen beyond, but make sure it looks like the Apple Vision Pro. Oh yeah, and throw in some Quest 3 controllers. This is Pimax just being Pimax yet again. They can announce they're going out of business, and I wouldn't even trust that at this point. They're constantly announcing new headsets before their last one even released, and even after they release a headset, it's usually months to even years before all the features actually work. So I think the Dream is the perfect name for this piece of hardware, because Pimax continually sells us hopes and dreams. But let's hope they prove me wrong, actually deliver this in May, and it's a solid headset. Now, the only truly confirmed piece of hardware is coming from Samsung and Google, as we're getting the first Android XR headset. I don't expect it'll vary too much from something like the Quest, but the best part here is there's new competition. While exclusive titles are a pain in the ass, this does have the potential to be a nice boom for the overall industry, and a good old-fashioned console war does have some nice overall benefits to the consumer. While I completely respect and love what certain companies like Meta and Valve have done for the industry, my loyalty remains to the best overall experience. Whatever I like or dislike, you guys will end up hearing about. And speaking of likes and dislikes, let's just round this video out with the last bits of hardware rumors. The Valve Deckard has been a rumored device for years now. This would be the sequel to the Index, my all-time favorite headset out of the 18 I have owned. Expectations are this would be similar to a Steam Deck with x86 VR capabilities. That means not only will it be able to play flat, Steam games, but also Steam VR titles. It's also expectedly a standalone headset with a robust connection for PC VR if you want to use it in that way. Now, generally, the rumors in this industry are dead on, and they've also been speeding up lately, centering around the concept that something is actually in mass production right now. So if all the stars align, I expect we'll see some hardware from Valve as early as May. And finally, we have some rumors for VR's forgotten child, the Apple Vision Pro. Obviously, the near $4,000 headset was not meant for the mass market, but it did give the company insight into what features they need to keep and which ones they could scratch. The expectation is we could see a new version that slashes the Pro off the title, and also the price tag down to around $1,500. Now, while this headset definitely wasn't for me, I will say it is the hands down best mixed reality experience out there. The panels are insanely sharp, there's basically zero latency in pass-through mode, and the control interface works extremely well. In multiple different ways, it really does feel like having a laptop strapped to your head. But let's hope they're able to drop the price and wait on the next version, so we once again have another real competitor in the XR industry. And that right there was today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments what you're most excited for in 2025. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing.
Ooh, we got a little news in there as well.
Yep. Always got to get a little bit in there.
Oh, Mateo, definitely VR news and reviews delivered.
18 headsets? My goodness.
Mm. And out of those games, that John Wick based one, I just finished watching the movies. I'm ready for that.
Which was the other one that had, again, it was almost like a Spider-Man mechanic that they had added, but he had something that looked like it was a glove with like an eyeball on it as he was doing it. That was, that looked pretty interesting mechanic-wise as well that they added into whichever game.
Oh, and dude, the Dungeons and Dragons one,
Oh, yeah.
that should be a necessity. Of course, this kind of environment and game control in the Dungeons and Dragons world, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Now, I mean, multiple ways that they can do it too. I mean, you can break it down to the augmented reality style where you just have your coffee table there, and there's, you're rolling the dice on the coffee table, and there's, a board that just is there because it's augmented reality.
Well, that's like the board games. The board games one was just, traditional. You could be doing your Dungeons and Dragons that way, and then all of a sudden switch into like combat mode, and the DM is like, you are now in a cave.
And that's the thing, is that's what they should do. It just takes the programming side of it is all.
Oh man, being a dungeon master in that kind of game building situation where you go from sitting around a table to you are now fighting a mole monster.
Yep, exactly. Or a dragon mole monster.
If the DM can just like whip it out and now you are fighting it.
Yep. The DM has all the control.
That would be a awesome way to incorporate Dungeons and Dragons. If any of you are listening out there who are making it,
thank you.
and we saw some potential new goggles. Those last couple that he was showing right there, a lot of potential there. But after seeing, basically the big choices right now. Valve definitely seems to be a company that's tied closely to everything going on. They're the ones who run Steam, right? That's
should be the Steam Deck, yeah.
Yeah, and Valve is the company behind Steam. Yeah, so they seem as tied into this VR development as Meta and Oculus before them. HTC is still in there. And you've got these like third party companies that are now making it competitive. If Apple can get that damn sexy technical beast down to $1,500, people might take it serious. At 3,000, they don't.
Yeah, no. At that price point, they're after a certain market at that price point. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's sometimes how Apple does it. They'll come out with something really ahead of its time, super expensive, just to pay for the development to get it to the $1,500 range, and then hopefully the developers don't have to go through loops and circles to port from this platform to that platform, because you notice some of these games they're PlayStation and Oculus ready.
And again, some will be exclusive titles on one platform or another also. Just, nature of the beast.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess if I wore glasses, I might go with the PlayStation, despite the fact that I can't play all the games.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is, if you would need glasses for something where it is right there, again, you're not actually looking that far in the distance as you think you are, that's where I would try the different headsets in a store, for example, if possible, to, try to see which ones or how much of a difference it makes with the addition of glasses or not.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious whether the disability is as prevalent when you are wearing VR goggles, because if you're nearsighted and you wear glasses because you're nearsighted, are you nearsighted when you're looking at a screen that's,
That's the thing is I am nearsighted, and basically that meant that I can see things that are near. So if the screens are right here, I should be able to see them fine, even if I'm looking in the screen into the distance, because I'm not actually looking into the distance. What I'm looking at is close. So I would think I would be fine, but people who are farsighted would probably have more of a more difficulty. But again, I would say it would depend on the individual. They would have to see how their eyes interact with the goggles.
And it's possible you could actually calibrate the system to a focus or a blur to compensate for, like, people with like prescription glasses. A couple of different settings on the goggles could switch it so that somebody who's nearsighted, hey, with this mode, you're virtually fixing the problem.
Yeah, it would be good if you could, but the problem is that I think in most cases the problem is from the front of the eye where the lens is to the retina and that distance, and you're not changing that with something on the screen. So that's why
There's no way they could virtually sharpen it up.
Well, it's by putting the lens in between what you're seeing and the eye is you're changing where that goes. So you're using the corrective lenses, whether it's contact lenses or glasses. So the fact that you can do it with contact lenses that are right on the eyeball tells you that something doesn't have to be that far away.
So somebody who wants to get big into virtual gaming might become a contact wearer simply because it's a path of least resistance on your goggles, because some of those goggles aren't made for glasses.
Right. And again, some people might not need the glasses at all or contact lenses at all inside the goggles. And some people might find that trying to wear contacts might make their eyes, more dry or more watery or more irritated when they're using the goggles for extended periods.
I bet you that happens.
Before.
I bet you that happens. Like you see some people's faces when they take it off and they're like,
yeah. Yeah, they're also very because their eyes have been immersed for so long. Now they come back out into reality.
Yeah. Damn. Now I wish I had found a search for a video on eye prescriptions with VR, because I bet you there's something out there. I'm gonna go look.
New rabbit hole.
I'm blind as it is, but if VR can help me see better, that would be cool.
The medical applications of VR.
Yeah, we might have to have a VR part 2. It's all medicinal.
Nice. But that'll be for another evening on another Thursday. Because we're here every Thursday.
Yes. And tomorrow we'll be featuring some interviews.
Nice. Some interviews. But we'll be back next week on Thursday, as well as being here tomorrow. With
and I might have one of those Meta 3s by then, because I think if I can tease my brother with that, he'll get the treadmill.
And you'll have that by the week after.
I know he's going to get that number 2 gun stock with the tactical feedback. That's exactly what he's asked for.
Nice. Yeah. We'll have to get the updated review then after he tries it out.
Yeah. All right. We'll see y'all tomorrow night.
Yes,
Glenn, fun rabbit hole with this one.
Yep, always good. And, video games, you found a subject that's always very close to my heart. I've been a fan of video games since before there were video games. So
I figured you'd be on that. And plus, the emulator rabbit hole that I just went down as I was going down this one, that's probably going to be coming up because I just perfected the machine, boots up off a USB stick, and I got everything going back to like Atari 2600, Commodore games.
Nice, yeah.
Taking myself back to when I was a kid.
I loved so many of those games. So many of them I'd boot it up, I'll play for like 8 seconds and then be like, yeah, that was fun, and then go find another one and do the same thing. But like I don't find myself just immersed in any of those games, really. The one I used to play the most probably would be something like Elevator Action or Rolling Thunder or something like that. One of those kind of games.
I spent 45 minutes on Time Pilot last night.
You caught my favorite. That was Time Pilot and 1942?
Oh, yeah. That's the other flying game that I was like, it's kind of like Asteroids, but in World War One.
With those two games, I definitely, that was also my go-tos. Those I would spend a lot of time on for sure.
Well, once I get it all set up, I got to figure out how to get the screen out to one that I can display, but wait till you see the interface in the games.
Nice. Yeah, we'll check it out for sure. On another video game night.
We're going to take you back.
Back to the future.
Okay, we'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for talking shh IT. See you.
We cover digital audio workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear, and 82. How to weigh and compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac, and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and sys that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talking IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat-making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much RAM. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking We're talking